Chapter 3502. If Lin Yi stood up for him, then it would be him and Lin Yi going against each other, which was not in line with his original intention. If he wanted to target Xiao Ran, he would have to wait until Lin Yi was finished. He wasn't that stupid. Lin Yi finished eating and looked at Zhong Pingliang, then said, "I'm done. Are you done?" "We just ate, of course we can't finish." Zhong Pingliang said. "Then I'm leaving, go back and rest. You gave up the challenge, I'll take it as you lost." Lin Yi said. "You." Zhong Pingliang was furious. What kind of logic was this? I can wait for you to eat, but you can't wait for me to eat? What kind of logic was this? However, there didn't seem to be any logic with Lin Yi. This person never seemed to be reasonable. He kicked him on the first day of school. How could he reason with him? So Zhong Pingliang could only grit his teeth and said, "Fine. I can still beat you up without eating. Let's go. Liang bro after you." Lawless Fist and Dongfang Badeo quickly opened the door for Pinliang to enter the restaurant. Zhong Pingliang and Zhang Naipeo walked in front, and Lu Taisho and Tu Xiaosho followed behind respectfully. They came to the empty space in front of the inn, and Lin Yi said, "What do you want to compete in? Tell me. I can't beat you to death, you're so troublesome. You should know that I'm best at insta-killing my opponents. Insta-killing is too hurtful. We are old classmates, how about this? You and I fight for a few moves. If you lose, you better stop." Zhong Pingliang said with a wave of his hand. "Oh, what if you lose?" Lin Yi asked. "I won't lose," Zhong Pingliang said confidently. Zhong Pingliang's words made Lin Yi laugh. Some people were like this, ridiculously arrogant. But Lin Yi couldn't make Zhong Pingliang do anything. If Zhong Pingliang lost, he lost. Lin Yi couldn't do anything to him. Could he kill him? Obviously not. Lin Yi wanted to keep a low profile during the trial. If he killed him, would Lin Yi still be able to participate in the trial? Forget it. Let's begin. Lin Yi waved his hand and said calmly. Pinliang's expression froze, and with a shake of his hand, a soft golden whip that looked like a golden dragon appeared in his hand. This was the Mad Dragon Patriarch's sky-class weapon. Lin Yi's expression changed slightly. Who would have thought that Pinliang would take out a sky-class weapon? One had to know that in this era where blacksmiths were extinct, it was extremely difficult to obtain a heaven-ranked divine weapon of one's own attribute. Not to mention obtaining one that matched one's own attribute. Even obtaining a weapon of other attributes was extremely difficult. Only a few sects with rich foundations would have it. For example, the ancient sects. It was impossible for ordinary sects and aristocratic families to have them. Fury of the Mad Dragon. Pinliang shouted suddenly, and the soft whip was like a mad dragon, flashing a dazzling golden light as it lashed towards Lin Yi. The head of the whip was like a dragon spitting fire, and the heat was scorching. It made people sweat profusely. This was the mantra that the Mad Dragon Patriarch cultivated, called the Mad Dragon Power. This cultivation technique was also a very heaven-defying cultivation technique. Just from its name, one could tell that it was a berserk dragon. Everyone knew how awesome a dragon was. Moreover, it was a berserk dragon. How mighty would it be? Back then, the Mad Dragon Patriarch was also a famous figure in the ancient world, and he could even fight against the Xiantian ancestor. It was just that he was killed by the Vajradul fiends. Otherwise, not many people could be his match. Even if Pinliang was only at the peak of the late phase of heaven class, and hadn't reached the great perfection, he was still an extremely powerful existence. The chi of the golden dragon that he activated, not only was it extremely powerful, but it also had a suppressive aura. Think about how powerful a dragon's aura was. In the legends, the dragon was the king of kings. Otherwise, the ancient emperors wouldn't be called the true dragon son of heaven. This aura, it could make practitioners tremble in front of him, as if there was a mountain in front of him. In front of Zhong Pingliang, any practitioner with a slightly weaker temperament would kneel down in fear. Even those with a strong mentality wouldn't be able to use the mantra. After all, the might of a dragon was not to be trifled with. As the chi of the golden dragon was activated, Pinliang could already imagine how Lin Yi would kneel under his feet, because the people nearby were already trembling. Not to mention Lin Yi, who was fighting him head-on. Thump, thump. The first to kneel wasn't Lin Yi, but Pinliang's lackeys. Other than Zhang Naipeo, Wu Wu Fist, Dongfang Badeo, Lu Taijian, and Tu Xiaoshou were all kneeling on the ground, trembling, not daring to look at Pinliang directly. Zhang Naipeo and Pinliang's arts were the same, and Zhang Naipeo could absorb any poison, qi, energy and pressure. So, other than the fact that it was a little hard for Zhang Naipeo to dissolve the pressure, there was nothing wrong with it. Wang Xinyan and Han Jingjing, on the other hand, felt their hearts palpitate, but for some reason, they didn't kneel on the ground. Pa! Pinliang's whip flew over, but it was caught in Lin Yi's hand. Lin Yi looked at Pinliang and said faintly, "What is this? Is it fun? Is it fireworks?" Wah! Pinliang's eyes went wide as he looked at Lin Yi. Lin Yi wasn't being pressured by his pressure, and was even holding his sky-class weapon in his hand. What was going on? That was impossible. His fury of the Berserk Dragon was effective against any cultivator. As long as it was a cultivator, they would definitely feel his pressure, unless the other party was not a cultivator. But Lin Yi was a practitioner, and a top-level one at that. How could Pinliang's fury of the Berserk Dragon be ineffective against Lin Yi? One had to know that fury of the Berserk Dragon looked very dazzling, but it didn't have much attack power. Its main purpose was to threaten the opponent, and as long as the opponent's psychological defense was broken, he could do whatever he wanted. "How are you fine?" Pinliang looked at Lin Yi surprised. "What do you mean, how am I fine? Is there something wrong with you? You used an electric cannon to scare people, and I'm fine? I thought you got smarter after going to the everyday sect, but you're still so stupid. You're just trying to scare people because you're not strong enough," Lin Yi said calmly. Chapter 3503. When the dragon totem appeared, all the practitioners had to kneel and kowtow. This was a skill that could only be used by a perfected practitioner, and using it with a sky-class late-phase peak consumed a lot of their energy. But, in order to defeat Lin Yi, Pinliang didn't care about that anymore. He used his strongest move. He didn't believe that Lin Yi wouldn't submit to him. Not to mention cultivators, even spirit beasts of the same level, would have to kneel and submit to his technique. "What are you doing?" "Magic." Lin Yi looked at Pinliang and asked faintly, "You didn't call me here just to watch you play tricks, did you? Are you crazy? Is there anything else? If there's nothing else, I'm going back." "Impossible." Pinliang's mouth was wide open as he stared at Lin Yi, who was perfectly fine in utter shock. The move that he was so proud of seemed to be ineffective against Lin Yi. This was a mantra created by the ancient dragon, and it had a strong pressure on practitioners, especially the last move. Anyone who saw it would have to bow down, but Lin Yi didn't move at all. Wasn't this too unrealistic? "Why yeah, go to hell." Pinliang raised his hands abruptly and made a strange gesture, and the dragon totem behind him glowed brightly in an instant. Pinliang's mantra was extremely powerful and heaven-defying. It was a mantra passed down from the ancient times, on par with Zhang Naipeo's chrysanthemum arts. Mantras passed down from the ancient times were usually invincible. Pinliang couldn't understand why his mantra didn't work on Lin Yi. It didn't matter if it didn't work on Lin Yi, but then he realized that Han Jingjing and Xinyan were fine as well. It didn't work on Lin Yi. It didn't make sense. Pinliang wasn't willing to give up. He roared, and the dragon totem on his body didn't dissipate. The golden dragon whip in his hand shook again, breaking free from Lin Yi's grip. It was aimed at Lin Yi's head. Lin Yi looked at Pinliang with a smile that wasn't quite a smile on his face. He didn't know why, but when he fought Pinliang earlier, he felt as if Pinliang was his follower. It was as if Pinliang was his follower, not him. Right now, this feeling was getting stronger and stronger. Lin Yi tried to circulate the mantra and suddenly shouted, "Get down!" Pinliang froze, then fell to the ground as if he'd received a blow, not daring to look at Lin Yi. His face was filled with shock and unwillingness, but he couldn't control his body. Pinliang's situation shocked Lin Yi as well, but Lin Yi quickly thought of a possibility. Lin Yi's art was called the Art of Dragon Mastery. Pinliang's arts must have something to do with dragons. Could it be that it had a restraining effect? Back then, when Lin Yi was cultivating it, he felt that the name of the Art of Dragon Mastery was amazing. It could even control a dragon. That was quite amazing. So now it could suppress Pinliang's mantra. That wasn't surprising at all. It seemed like the name of the art of dragon mastery wasn't just for show. After Pinliang fell to the ground, he stopped circulating the mantra, but the pressure on his body weakened a lot. He tried it. He could actually stand up. What was going on? Pinliang was stunned, thinking that it wasn't an illusion just now, was it? This move of his had never failed before. So he harbored the thought of giving it a try, and revolved the violent dragon divine technique once again. In the end, that kind of pressure suddenly returned again. Pinliang realized, to his dismay, that he wanted to submit to Lin Yi as soon as he used the practitioner's arts. But if it were anyone else, wouldn't they have to submit to Lin Yi? Why did he feel like submitting to Lin Yi? Impossible, he couldn't accept it, Pinliang, are you going to be my follower? It looks like Prophet Shu was right. You're just a follower of mine. Lin Yi said mockingly as he looked at Pinliang. What? Prophet Shu? Pinliang paused, remembering who Prophet Shu was. Yushu had tricked him a lot back then, and he gritted his teeth in anger. Don't talk about this, we'll see in the trial. Do what you want. Alright, since you're kneeling, it's your loss. If there's nothing else, I'm going back, Lin Yi said, waving at Xinyan and Han Jingjing, and the three of them walked to the inn. Xiaoran saw Lin Yi's power from afar, suppressing Pinliang. He was very surprised, secretly admiring Lin Yi. Pinliang, on the other hand, didn't want to accept it, but there was nothing he could do. He lost the first battle, and he wanted to use Lin Yi to show off his power. Although he couldn't do anything to Lin Yi, making Lin Yi submit was a very satisfying thing. Wasn't Lin Yi the number one under Sky Dao? Now that the number one had submitted to him, didn't that make him the number one now? Unfortunately, it was all for naught. Pinliang's chant could be said to be effective against anyone under Sky Dao. It was just a matter of how strong the effect was. It might be effective against someone like the Xiantian ancestor, but the Xiantian ancestor would react very quickly, and wouldn't be suppressed for long. But Lin Yi wasn't affected at all. Naipeo didn't expect this to happen, and he waited until Lin Yi left before coming back to his senses. Liang bro, do you want me to do something? No, you're a trump card. We need to save it for the test. We can't go against Lin Yi too early. Pinliang shook his head. He didn't want to, but there was nothing he could do. He humphed. Let's go back. Alright. Pinliang nodded as he followed. As for the others, although they saw that Pinliang had lost, no one dared to abandon him. They couldn't even handle Zhang Naipeo alone, let alone Pinliang, who was so powerful. Lin Yi thought as he walked, why were Han Jingjing and Xinyan fine? But no matter how he thought about it, the only explanation was that they both had their own pure qi in their bodies. Perhaps the pure qi he generated through the art of dragon mastery was able to defend against Pinliang's mad dragon arts. Although it couldn't make Pinliang submit, it was possible to not be suppressed by him. For the next 2 days, Pinliang and Naipeo didn't provoke Lin Yi at all. When Lin Yi brought Han Jingjing and Xingyan to the restaurant to eat, they pretended not to see anything. Taisa, on the other hand, ignored Xiaoran as well, as if he'd forgotten who he was. Chapter 3504. In addition, other than Zhong Pingliang and the others, Lin Yi saw a few acquaintances. Song Lingrui came, but she pretended not to know Lin Yi and didn't greet Lin Yi. Bubbly Clan's Tho Ryu also came. He did greet Lin Yi, but under Lin Yi's hint, he didn't get too close to Lin Yi. After all, Lin Yi didn't want to be too ostentatious this time. When facing Zhong Pingliang, he also knew when to stop. In fact, from the beginning to the end, Lin Yi didn't make a move. The rest of the sects with inheritors didn't come. It seemed that they weren't with ordinary trial takers. There were also a few disciples of foreign small sects that he didn't know. They didn't talk to Lin Yi, and Lin Yi didn't bother to greet them. No matter how he thought about it, there weren't that many people in the heaven class trial. Even if Lin Yi reached the ancient level, the number of heaven class masters was still pitifully small. There weren't many heaven class masters at the peak of the late phase, or the full circle of heaven class. It was the last day of the trial registration. On this day, nothing happened, and no other trial takers came to register. At night, a voice suddenly rang out in the open space behind the inn. Although the voice wasn't loud, it had a very strong penetrating power. It carried a very strong majesty, causing the hearts of all the challengers in the inn to tremble. All trial takers participating in the Heaven Stage trial, please note that the registration time for this trial has ended. Now we will start the registration. All trial takers in the inn, please gather in the open space behind the inn within 5 minutes to accept the registration and inspection of the 5 Elements sect. No one will wait after the deadline. This voice belonged to Ancestor Xianxin, and Lin was very familiar with it. Moreover, he didn't hide his strength at all, revealing the strength of Heaven Stage, Peak, Late Stage, and Great Circle. It was actually Ancestor Xianxin himself. Lin was somewhat moved. It seemed that the 5 Elements sect attached great importance to this trial. However, they didn't pay a deposit like the other trials. This made Lin feel somewhat strange. Logically speaking, Kong Mingming had lost so much money previously. Why didn't he take the opportunity to make more money this time? But after thinking about it carefully, those who could participate in the 5 Elements sect's trial were all elites of their respective sections. Moreover, they were here to prepare for the Heavenly Rank meeting and the qualification to enter the Heavenly Rank Island. It was a bit inappropriate to collect money at this time. Moreover, he reckoned that Patriarch Xuanqin's mind was no longer on money. He was going to Heaven Stage Island. So what was the point of having so much money in the secular world? It was still uncertain what kind of currency it would be on the Heavenly Island. One had to know that the higher the level of cultivation, the less useful money would be. Those natural treasures couldn't be measured with money, so it was more common for them to be traded for other treasures. However, when he first participated in other trials, there were very few sect masters who directly shouted for people. Lin had some evil thoughts. Could it be that there was no one else in the 5 Elements sect? His disciple was killed by him. So Patriarch Xianxin had no choice but to go personally? Thinking about it, Lin still brought Wang Xinyan and Han Jingjing to the open space behind the inn. In less than a minute, almost all the trial takers had left the inn and came to the square behind the inn. After all, everyone was a Heavenly Rank expert, so their speed wasn't slow. Lin, Han Jingjing, and Wang Xinyan found a relatively clean place and sat cross-legged on the ground. The other trial takers came over and followed Lin Yi's example. They found a place to sit down. Everyone had participated in the trial before and knew the rules. They knew that the rules of the trial must be explained when everyone was gathered here. On a temporarily built high platform in the square behind the inn, Patriarch Xianxin was wearing a bagua robe and stood with his hands behind his back. Behind him stood 3 people. These 3 people were all very familiar to Lin Yi. One of them made Lin Yi very excited. It was actually Tian Chan, whom he hadn't seen for a long time. Since the last trial of the Heavenly Elixir sect, Lin Yi hadn't seen Tian Chan again. He didn't expect her to follow behind Patriarch Xianxin. Could she also be a disciple of the 5 Elements sect? However, Tian Chan didn't look sideways, as if she didn't notice Lin Yi at all. This made Lin Yi slightly disappointed. Tian Chan was a girl he was very attracted to, but perhaps their relationship stopped at the last trial of the Heavenly Elixir sect. As for the other 2 people, they were Kong Mingming and Little 11. These 3 people didn't hide their strength. The strength of the great perfection of the late-stage Heaven Stage was revealed. Lin Yi wasn't surprised that Tian Chan had the strength of the great perfection. However, wasn't Kong Mingming and Little 11's speed of advancement a little too fast? Could it be that Kong Mingming refined the qi-gathering pills for the couple to consume? Thinking that the 5 Elements sect must have kept a lot of white energy stones for their own use, it was not surprising that Kong Mingming could quickly refine the qi-gathering pills. As long as an alchemist could quickly restore his physical strength and qi, it was possible to refine as many pills as he wanted. However, Patriarch Xianxin was really willing to spend a lot of money. For them, the white energy stones were one less. In the past, they were only used to assist in cultivation, but now they were actually used for alchemy. However, Patriarch Xianxin probably didn't care about these things anymore, since they were going to Heavenly Island. On the other hand, Little 11 was clearly injured and crippled by Lin Yi, but he could still improve his strength? How did he improve his strength? This made Lin Yi extremely surprised. It seemed that the foundation of the Five Elements sect was still very deep, and it was not something that he could understand. Kong Ming Ming's eyes swept across the challengers below, as if he was looking for something. When he saw Lin Yi, his eyes suddenly flashed with excitement and bloody brilliance. This made Lin Yi's heart tighten. The way this guy looked at him was not quite right. Could it be that he was thinking of some dirty tricks to deal with him in the trial? Kong Ming Ming had always been like this. If it wasn't because he had the identity of Patriarch Xuanzhen's son-in-law, which made him different from those disciples, Lin Yi really couldn't let him stay until now. But now, Lin Yi didn't want to fall out with Patriarch Xianchen before landing on Heavenly Island. Without Patriarch Xianchen, Lin Yi didn't know how to get to Heavenly Island, so he temporarily let Kong Ming Ming stay. And Little 11, who was next to Kong Ming Ming, swept his eyes over to Lin Yi, and his eyes didn't leave Han Jingjing and Wang Xinyan. Obviously, he was also full of hatred. However, Lin Yi heard that this Heavenly Island trial was an important event before landing on Heavenly Island. Kong Ming Ming shouldn't destroy him, right? After all, the matter of Heavenly Island was more important than anything else. Chapter 3505. After a while, a minibus slowly drove over. The door opened, and a group of beautiful women alighted from the minibus, causing the eyes of all the contestants to light up. However, no one dared to have any ill intentions, because they were all inheritors. Ice Palace's people were Crystal Candy and Xiao Xiao. After getting off, they looked at the participants and sat down next to the Xianchen ancestors' platform, much closer to him than the other participants. Lin Yi knew that they were looking at him, and he let out a sigh of relief. Finally, he saw them, reuniting with the participants, going to Sky Class Island. This was Lin Yi's persistence and hard work. And now that the moment had come, Lin Yi was extremely excited. Snowy Valley's people were Sydney and Tang Yun. Lin Yi had seen these two before, and he had an impression of them. But his impression was that they were very pure and pretty, and Sydney was secondary. As for Tang Yun, Lin Yi suddenly had an indescribable feeling. It was as if the girl he saw in that instant in Snowy Valley was her. Was it her? Probably. It was a very strange feeling. And for some reason, the moment he saw Tang Yun, Lin Yi's heart palpitated. Could it be that this was a special attraction between him and the inheritors? The other inheritors all had a relationship with Lin Yi, and it was a boyfriend-girlfriend kind of relationship, but the one from Snowy Valley wasn't. And now, Lin Yi's feeling towards Tang Yun made him wonder if it was the will of the heavens? Dark Palace's people were Meng Yao and the Grand Elder, and the mist didn't hide it at all. She got off the car and looked at Lin Yi, nodding to Lin Yi and smiling, before sitting down next to Xiao Xiao with the elder on stage. Xiao Xiao didn't care if the person on stage was the Xianchen ancestor or not, and started chatting with Meng Yao. This caused Patriarch Xuanzhen's expression to turn a little ugly. However, he still had to rely on these inheritors, so he couldn't say much. With elemental inheritance, Boss Bai and Guan Xian got off the car. Of course, Boss Bai couldn't participate in the trial, because his level wasn't high enough. Moreover, he didn't want to go to the Heavenly Island. Wang Xingyan didn't use the remaining qi-gathering pills when she leveled up, so Lin Yi decided to save them for Boss Bai. With them, Boss Bai would be able to break through to Sky Class. He might even be able to reach the consummate level, and it wouldn't be difficult for him to regain control of the Five Elements sect. From the endless West Sea, the person who came was an old woman, and beside her was Yu Ning. This old woman's strength. It seemed like she had no strength at all. She should be an ordinary person, but Yu Ning's strength had shocked Lin Yi. Peak late heaven rank great perfection. Lin Yi couldn't help but admire the secret indoctrination of Tantric Buddhism. The world was so big that there were still many talented people. From Fiery Mountain, the person who came was Rocket Cannon and Yushu. Yushu's strength had also reached peak late heaven rank, great perfection, which shocked Lin Yi. However, her situation was very similar to Yu Ning's. It was probably caused by the secret indoctrination of Tantric Buddhism. From Yellow Earth High Sect, the person who came was Tu Qingsong and Tu Ranran. Tu Ranran's strength hadn't reached great perfection, only peak late heaven rank. But even so, one could imagine the strength of these foreign sections. The foreign sects all had some secret methods that could quickly increase the strength of cultivators. This was different from the ancient sects of the Central Plains. Of course, correspondingly, although the speed of improvement was very fast, the price paid was also quite huge. Long ago, a master might have to sacrifice the strength of 2 or 3 masters. This kind of 2 for 1, 3 for 1 situation could only be seen in the foreign lands. The sects of the Central Plains would not do this. These inheritors all got off the car and found a place to sit. The rules of the trial were probably going to be announced soon. Sure enough, when Ancestor Xianchen saw that everyone had arrived, he nodded indifferently and said, "Okay, since everyone is here, then let's begin. First, let me introduce myself. Maybe many of you already know me. My name is Xianchen, the acting sect master of the 5 Elements sect, the person in charge of the Heaven Rank trial, the Heaven Rank meeting, and the Heaven Rank Island plan." Ancestor Xuanchen's words made the cultivators below tremble. They were very excited. The Heaven Rank Island, the Heaven Rank Dao, was a higher pursuit for these cultivators, who didn't want to have higher strength. Some people said that you are already a top existence in the secular world. You can be called a land atomic bomb. Why do you still want to advance? There is a saying that there is no end to learning, and the path of martial arts cultivation is the same. After reaching a bottleneck, there is hope to cross it. This is the lifelong pursuit of the cultivators of my generation. In this trial, there are 2 of my assistants who will help everyone participate in the trial. And one of them is my son-in-law, Kong Ming. Everyone should have seen him before. He is also an elder of the Heavenly Elixir sect. Ancestor Xianchen said. These words surprised the cultivators below. Many people still didn't know Kong Ming's identity. At this moment, when Ancestor Xianchen said it, everyone immediately became cautious. This Kong Ming was someone they had to curry favor with. And the other one is the young sect master of the Heavenly Elixir sect, Tian Chan. Ancestor Xianchen once again dropped a bombshell and pointed at Tian Chan. The cultivators below looked at Ancestor Xianchen in an uproar. Wasn't the young sect master of the Heavenly Elixir sect a man? How did he become a beautiful girl? Was the rumor wrong, or was he a transvestite? Moreover, wasn't the young sect master of the Heavenly Elixir sect called Heavenly Silkworm Transformation? How did he become Tian Chan? Of course, the ones who were the most shocked were the heirs in their sections. The young sect master of the Heavenly Elixir sect had more or less gone to the sects of these heirs to propose marriage. But now it seemed that the young sect master of the Heavenly Elixir sect was a woman? Where did the rumor of having many wives and concubines come from? Why did this woman want to propose marriage? Was Ancestor Xianchen lying? As for the fact that the young sect master of the Heavenly Elixir sect is a woman, I was the one who asked them to hide it. The matter of going to the heir sects to propose marriage was also arranged by me. As for the specific reason, I will announce it at the Heavenly Rank meeting. Now your main task is the trial. Don't think about these things for now. Ancestor Xianchen gave a simple explanation and then continued. These 2 are disciples of my 5 Elements sect. Kong Ming is my disciple, and Tian Chan is my second senior brother's disciple. They are the senior assistants who help me control the trial. Chapter 3506. Linny took a deep breath. Although he did not know why Patriarch Xianchen had arranged this. If there was only Kong Ming as a trial assistant, then he was afraid that Kong Ming would give him a lot of trouble in the trial. This was not what Linny wanted to see. But if Tian Chan was there, Linny believed that Tian Chan would help him no matter what. Most of you are from the major ancient families and sections. I won't go into detail about the danger of the trial. Since you are here, you should be very clear. I believe that even itinerant cultivators understand that the trial is full of danger. If you don't want to die, you can withdraw now. Once you go in, your life and death will be up to fate. Patriarch Xianchen paused slightly when he said this. He glanced at the inheritors and continued. The trial testers are in danger, and the inheritors are also in danger. But what you have to do is to protect the inheritors, and not let them be in any danger. Otherwise, everyone will be finished. If the heaven-level island cannot be opened, all the previous efforts will be wasted. Patriarch Xuanzhen's words caused the trial takers below to fall silent. Indeed, they only had one goal in coming here, and that was to advance to the heavenly way. If something happened to the inheritor, then everyone's dreams would be shattered. Many people still wanted to go to the heaven-level island to show off their skills and look up to those legendary seniors who went to the heaven-level island. If everything was wasted, then they would really regret it. However, thinking about it, everything had risks. As long as everyone did their best, it would be fine. Patriarch Xianxin looked at the expressions of the cultivators below and was very satisfied. This trial was different from the other trials in the past. If something went wrong, everyone would be doomed. But now, it seemed that everyone was taking it seriously. Well, since everyone understands the importance of this trial, then I will talk about the rules of this trial. The duration of this trial is 3 days. It will float for 5 days. This is probably the shortest trial you have participated in. Not bad, you can't hold on for too long, and it is meaningless. As long as you consolidate the inheritor's inherited elemental power, it will be fine. The purpose of the trial will also be achieved. Patriarch Xianxin said. The location of the trial this time is still the Ice Fiend Wilderness that many people have gone to. However, the location of the Fiend Wilderness this time is different. It should be the Fiend Mountain Range. The things that Patriarch Xianxin said were very different from the previous trials. Everyone present listened very seriously. When they heard that it was still training in the Five Evils Savage Wasteland, everyone's expressions became somewhat solemn. Previously, when the Spirit Beast frenzy broke out, many people nearly died there. If they were to go to the Five Evils Savage Land again, it would definitely be exceptionally dangerous. The destination of this trial, it was the cave of the Five Demons Dragon in the Five Demons Mountain Range. I'm sure all of you have heard of the Five Evils Dragon, right? This is the king of 10,000 beasts of the Five Evils Savage Land. According to this old man's investigation, it has already reached the peak of heaven rank and has a high chance of breaking through to the heavenly Tao. Therefore, all of you must be extremely careful. What you need to do is to lure the dragon of 5 evils out of its cave. Then, let all the inheritors enter the cave. This is because the cave is the spring of the 5 evils chi. After all the inheritors enter, they will absorb the devil chi of their own inheritance attribute to achieve the purpose of strengthening the inheritance. Similarly, the inheritors will resist the remaining 4 types of devil chi and break through the pressure to break through the limit. The inheritors who did not advance to the Great Perfection Realm will also advance in the pressure. This process will last about 2 to 3 days, until all the inheritors succeed in strengthening the inheritance attribute and advance to heaven rank Great Perfection Realm. As for the other inheritors, you must remember that you are no match for the dragon of 5 evils. Don't even think about fighting against it or killing it. Your goal is to deal with it and lure it out of the cave. As long as you don't return, you will succeed. At the same time, under the pressure of the 5 evils dragon and the 5 evils aura, those of you who haven't advanced to the great circle of the heaven realm can take advantage of this opportunity to advance. This is a rare opportunity. I hope you don't waste it. In the trial, all the inheritors will listen to Tian Chan's arrangements and orders. All the trial takers will listen to Kong Mingming's orders. If you don't listen, you will be disqualified from this trial. Don't even think about landing on Heaven Rank Island. There is no chance. Patriarch Xuanzhen's voice was very strict, causing the trial takers below to be very careful. However, when Linny heard that Kong Mingming would be in charge of the trial, he was a little worried. Kong Mingming had a grudge against him. If he caused any trouble in the trial, Linny would really be unable to guard against it. At that time, if Kong Mingming said that Linny did not cooperate, what would Linny do? However, now that things had come to this, Linny could only put up with it. If Kong Mingming really disqualified him, he might also fight to the death to make all the inheritors leave and stop this plan. Then, he would see what Patriarch Xianxin would do. Okay, that's all for the rules of this trial. I'm going to prepare to open the teleportation device. You can communicate privately first. If the inheritors have any questions, you can ask Tian Chan now. If the other trial takers have any questions, you can ask Kong Mingming. After Patriarch Xianqian finished speaking, he left in a hurry. Obviously, he was going to prepare for the inheritors' teleportation to the Five Evils mountain range. It was not possible for the inheritors to enter the Five Evils mountain range naturally. First, there was no way. Second, it was extremely dangerous. It was difficult for them to walk there. Fortunately, the seniors of the Five Elements sect had left a teleportation device. After opening, it could directly send the trial takers and inheritors to the Five Evils mountain range, near the Five Evils Dragon's cave. After Patriarch Xianqian left, the trial takers all surrounded Kong Mingming. Of course, other than Zhong Pingliang and Zhang Naipeo, who were a little reserved, the others were almost on their knees. After all, Kong Mingming could be said to have the power of life and death in his hands. If he said pass, then pass. If not, then fail. Isn't this Liang Bro and Pao? Come, let's discuss the division of work after we reach the Five Evils mountain range. Kong Mingming called out to Zhong Pingliang and Zhang Naipeo. He wanted to kill Lin Yi, and naturally, he needed these two's cooperation. Chapter 3507. Putting aside the fact that Zhang Naipeo was very useful, Kong Mingming had learned from the Xianqian elder that Pinliang was possessed by the Mad Dragon Master. So calling him Liang Bro was a more respectful way of addressing him. Pinliang saw that Kong Mingming's attitude wasn't bad, so he walked over proudly. "All right, brother Kong, tell me." Kong Mingming looked not far away and realized that Lin Yi wasn't coming over, but was walking towards the inheritor instead. He was overjoyed and lowered his voice. "Liang Bro, I know that you and Lin Yi are enemies, and I have a way to get rid of Lin Yi. I need everyone's cooperation." The other participants heard Kong Mingming say that he wanted to get rid of Lin Yi, and their faces changed slightly, but then they felt relieved. Since Kong Mingming said it in front of them, it meant that they were on the same side. As long as they stood firmly on Kong Mingming's side and didn't try to get close to Lin Yi, then there wouldn't be any problems in this trial. At least, Kong Mingming wouldn't cause them any trouble. After thinking this through, everyone was very happy. "Oh, tell me about it." Pinliang was actually afraid that the Five Elements sect would interfere with him and Zhang Naipeo fighting Lin Yi. After all, this trial was different from the past, and the main goal was to protect the inheritor, not to be a hero. But now, since Kong Mingming also wanted to fight Lin Yi, the pressure on him was much lighter, and he didn't have to worry about anything at all. "When we go to the trial, we just need to do this. Then Liang Bro and Pao, you guys take over at any time," Kong Mingming said. "Good plan." Everyone agreed after hearing this. This was simply a great thing to do at the expense of others. They had no reason to disagree. As for Lin Yi, he didn't go to Kong Mingming's place either. Obviously, it wasn't welcomed by Kong Mingming, so Lin Yi didn't bother to give him a cold shoulder. He brought Han Jingjing and Xingyan to the inheritors. Tian Chan was in the middle of explaining to the inheritors the things to pay attention to when they went to the cave, and how to resist the pressure when she felt someone coming from behind her. She turned around and saw Lin Yi. She smiled at him. This instant smile overlapped with the yellow-clothed girl in Lin Yi's memory. Lin Yi took a deep breath and seemed to recall Tian Chan's catchphrase of "kick you." However, what Lin Yi didn't expect was that Tian Chan was actually the young master of the Heavenly Elixir sect. At this moment, Lin Yi suddenly understood why the Heavenly Elixir sect's attitude towards him was so ambiguous. Kong Mingming was against him, but the young master of the Heavenly Elixir sect seemed to help him often. If the young master was Tian Chan, all of this could be explained. "Tian Chan, long time no see." "Long time no see," Lin Yi said as he walked over. "Yes," Tian Chan responded lightly, as if she wasn't very familiar with Lin Yi. Perhaps Tian Chan already knew about the relationship between Lin Yi and the inheritors, so she didn't want to show that she was familiar with Lin Yi in front of them. Or, Tian Chan was just as she said. After parting in the Five Evils Savage Land, "I am me, and you are you." Lin Yi took a deep breath and said, "I'll leave the inheritors' safety in your hands." The inheritors looked at Lin Yi in surprise. They didn't know how Lin Yi knew Tian Chan. It seemed like it wasn't the first time they met, and they seemed to be very familiar with each other. Lin Yi nodded and looked at the inheritors. Other than those who were familiar with him, Lin Yi's gaze finally fell on Tang Yun. He didn't know why, but Tang Yun seemed to have a special attraction to Lin Yi. This feeling was as if he had seen her in his previous life. It was very mysterious. Tang Yun felt Lin Yi's gaze as well, and her breathing quickened. This was the person she thought about day and night, the person she loved dearly, but she couldn't get to know him. Tang Yun was very happy that Lin Yi was able to grow to his current strength and appear in the Sky Class test. But looking at the beautiful girls around Lin Yi, Tang Yun would be lying if she said she wasn't jealous. Luckily, she'd known most of these people since she was still here. Mingyao Yushu Xiaoxiao Guan Xian. Only Yu Ning and Jiu were new, but she'd talked to Mingyao before, and she knew that these two were people Lin Yi knew before her, so she didn't have to worry too much about it. Plus, because of Tang Yun's arts, she couldn't have love, so this didn't have much to do with her. She was now a master at the peak of the late phase of Sky Division, and she had not reached the great perfection yet. The stagnation of Heartless formula made Tang Yun a little anxious, and Xueli was even more worried. So when she saw Lin Yi looking at her, Xueli subconsciously coughed twice, hinting Tang Yun to not get back together with Lin Yi. Otherwise, if she couldn't reach the great perfection of Sky Division, everything would be in vain. Tang Yun heard Sydney's cough and knew that she was reminding her, so she didn't raise her head. Lin Yi realized that Tang Yun wasn't looking at him, and Lin Yi could only sigh and leave. Tian Chan was explaining things related to inheritors, and Lin Yi couldn't just sit and listen. What was wrong with him sitting and listening? When Lin Yi walked back, Kong Mingming called out to him, "Isn't this Lin Yi, the strongest wandering cultivator under the heavenly Tao?" Kong Xiaoming gave Lin Yi so many titles as soon as he opened his mouth. Lin Yi felt that something was wrong. This guy must be up to no good. As expected, after Lin Yi walked over and looked at him, Kong Mingming continued, "We discussed it, and since you are the strongest among us, then you will be in charge of luring the dragon of 5 evils out of the cave. After all, whoever is stronger will do the work. Do you have any objections to my arrangement?" So he was waiting here. Lin Yi laughed in his heart at Kong Mingming's scheming. Luring the dragon of 5 evils out of the cave was the most dangerous part, and one could die at any time. In this mission, Kong Mingming actually let Lin Yi do it, and at the end, he even said that this was his arrangement, and he asked Lin Yi if he had any objections. It was a blatant threat, telling Lin Yi that if Lin Yi didn't listen to him, he had the right to cancel Lin Yi's qualification to participate in the trial at any time. Chapter 3508. With the Ghost Senior as his trump card, Lin Yi would not be in too much danger. "Just me." Lin Yi glanced at Kong Mingming and asked calmly, "That's right. We had a meeting just now and unanimously decided that only you are the most suitable. This is the result of a vote. Of course, you can disagree and we can choose someone else. However, since you don't listen to orders, I can only refuse to let you participate in the Heaven Class trial." Kong Mingming said, "Do you think it's interesting to say that? Unanimous decision? Who decided? You decided. You decided. Or you?" Lin Yi casually pointed at a few trial takers around Kong Mingming and asked calmly. However, these people all lowered their heads. No one dared to look directly at Lin Yi. After all, Lin Yi was infamous in the ancient times. He killed anyone he didn't like. These people wanted to lick Kong Mingming's boots, but they didn't dare to offend Lin Yi. After all, if Lin Yi really wanted to beat them to death, Kong Mingming wouldn't be able to save them. "Lin Yi, don't worry about that. Anyway, are you going to listen or not?" Kong Mingming's eyes flashed with anger. He just said that to make it sound more dignified. However, he didn't expect that Lin Yi wouldn't give him any face and directly exposed him. This made him feel embarrassed. "If you don't want to go, then please leave. The trial doesn't welcome you." "Who said I don't agree?" Lin Yi asked calmly. "Which ear did you hear that? I'm just questioning it." "You." Kong Mingming was furious. "If you agree, why didn't you say so earlier? You put me on the spot with so much nonsense." He snorted and said, "Do you see that? In the trial I am the authority. Those who submit to me will prosper, and those who oppose me will perish. This Lin Yi is the #1 itinerant cultivator under the heavenly Tao. He didn't dare to disobey, and spouted a bunch of bullshit. In the end, he still had to obediently submit. Kong Mingming was not stupid. He changed a bad thing into a good thing in an instant, and said directly, "Oh, then I won't give in. I'm leaving," Lin Yi said. He turned around to leave. Quack! Kong Mingming was stunned. He didn't expect that Lin Yi would leave so decisively. He didn't know how to deal with it. What a cheap mouth. Lin Yi had already agreed. So why was he still acting tough for the sake of face? Now that Lin Yi was gone, didn't that mean that the plan he'd made was wasted? This made him a little at a loss. He hesitated for a moment and hurriedly said, "Don't, I was just joking." "Haha, Lin Yi, don't get too excited. You're already here. It would be a pity if you don't join." "Oh, since you want me to stay, then I'll reluctantly join. But I regret it. Send me an assistant to lure the 5 malefic dragon. I think he's a good person. What do you think?" Lin Yi said. He pointed at Lu Taisho and said. Lin Yi didn't like this kind of two-faced guy. He had chosen to submit after hearing his name, but now he was on Pinliang's side. There was no way Lin Yi would let him go. I think Kong Mingming was in a difficult position. This person was obviously Pinliang's underling. If he made the decision, it would be the same as offending Pinliang. That'd be offending Pinliang too. He'd said he'd protect the others, and now he'd have to hand one over for Lin Yi. This wasn't the case. Oh, since Lin Yi needs it, then let Lu Taisho go. It's a trial anyway. I think it's normal for him to make a sacrifice. Pinliang was going to cause trouble during the trial, and if Lin Yi left now, who would he deal with? Lu Taisho was an insignificant person, so it didn't matter if he was handed over. Lu Taisho's expression changed. He didn't think that he would be the first to be handed over after joining Pinliang. This made him very depressed. If he knew this would happen, he would have joined Lin Yi. Although he could lure the 5 malefic dragon with Lin Yi, at least Lin Yi would protect him. Now he was just cannon fodder. Liang bro, I can't do it. I'm not experienced enough. What if I mess things up? Lu Taisho was a little numb. He didn't want to die. It wasn't easy to come here to participate in the trial, and his goal was to ascend to heavenly Tao, not to die. Since Lin Yi thinks so highly of you, you must have something special about you. Kong Xiaoming naturally wouldn't let Lu Taisho off the hook after Pinliang agreed. He interrupted him immediately. I think you shouldn't look down on yourself. Let's just do this. Kong Mingming made the final decision, and Lu Taisho had no other choice. He knew that he was going to die. He looked at Kong Mingming gloomily. I'm withdrawing from the trial. Cancel my registration, I'm not going. Oh. Kong Mingming was startled. He didn't expect Lu Taisho to play this trick. But to be honest, whether Lu Taisho went or not had nothing to do with Kong Mingming. What he was afraid of was that Lin Yi would be unhappy if Lu Taisho left. It wouldn't be fun if Lu Taisho left as well. Pinliang's expression changed, but Lin Yi raised his hand and punched at Lu Taisho. The 20th form of Frenzy Fist was the strongest form of Lin Yi's normal techniques. But even a normal technique was far stronger than other people's 20 forms. This was equivalent to the 21st form. Even if it hit Lu Taisho, if it didn't kill him, it would at least cripple him. Boom dash, a loud sound rang out, and Lu Taisho was sent flying by Lin Yi's attack. He smashed into the ground not far away, creating a human-shaped crater. He spat out a mouthful of blood, evidently suffering from serious internal injuries. Since he's not a participant anymore, I'll finish him off here. Saves me the trouble of bringing him to the trial. Lin Yi said faintly. Originally, if he had contributed in the trial, I could have spared his life. Since he doesn't want to go, then there's no need to go. Although Lin Yi's words were indifferent, it made everyone present tremble. Lin Yi was too overbearing. He attacked without warning. He really couldn't be provoked. However, Kong Mingming's anger was vented in his heart. Who told Lu Taisho to not listen to orders? Haha, yes, since he doesn't want to participate, then his life and death has nothing to do with our 5 elements sect. Kong Mingming said faintly. Then Lin Yi, who do you need to help you now? No need, I'll do it myself. Lin Yi waved his hand. He glanced at Xiao Ran not far away. He saw Xiao Ran standing at the back of the participants, watching Lu Taisho get beaten up with some excitement. Chapter 3509. Haha, that's good. In that case, let's go to the trial. Kong Mingming also saw the Xianqian ancestor walking over at this time. After the Xianqian ancestor walked over, everyone present immediately quieted down. After all, the Xianqian ancestor was unreachable in their hearts. Although they were all experts at the great perfection of heaven stage, perhaps only Lin Yi could compete with him. Okay, the teleportation array has been opened. Participants, please follow me. The Xianqian ancestor said. Kong Mingming nodded, and led the heirs to follow the Xianqian ancestor to the teleportation array in the distance. This was a large array left behind from ancient times. It was said that it was set up by a formation master, but the formation master had disappeared, and not even a bit of information was left behind. Therefore, no one knew how to set up and repair the array. They only knew how to use it, and this array could only be used a few times. It was said that there was a limit to the number of times it could be used. The Xianqian ancestor made a gesture, and Kong Mingming let the participants enter in a line. They entered what looked like a teleportation tunnel, and then the participants in front of them disappeared. Lin Yi, Xiao Ran, Wang Xingyan, and Han Jingjing were the last to enter before Kong Mingming. After entering the tunnel, everything suddenly became dark, but soon, it became clear. Almost in an instant, Lin Yi arrived at the Five Fiends mountain range. Although Lin Yi couldn't determine where it was in the Five Fiends mountain range, judging from the surrounding environment and the density of the Five Fiends chi here, it must be the Five Fiends mountain range. After taking a deep breath, Lin Yi said to Han Jingjing and Wang Xingyan, "You two are here to gain experience. Don't get too close to the Five Fiends dragon." "Okay." Han Jingjing and Wang Xingyan nodded and said, "Then be careful." "I'll be fine," Lin Yi said indifferently. Then Kong Mingming came in, and behind him were the heirs, and the people from the heirs sections. These people were also going to follow the inheritor into the Five Evils Dragon Cave, to protect the inheritor. Although Boss Bai wasn't here, Tian Chan was there to protect Guan Xian. When everyone was present, Kong Mingming and Pinliang led the participants to a safe place to hide. Before they left, Kong Mingming said, "The strongest person under the heavenly Tao will be counting on you later. In order to avoid affecting your performance, we'll hide first. When the time comes, you can lure out the dragon of Five Evils by yourself." Lin Yi sneered. He signaled for Xingyan and Han Jingjing to hide with Xiao Ran. Xiao Ran clearly didn't fit in with Pinliang's group, so he hid further away. Lin Yi wasn't worried about his character, so he let Xingyan and Han Jingjing hide there. The cave of the Five Evils dragon was a little steep, and Tian Chan and the heirs prepared to hide at the side of the cave. Once Lin Yi lured out the dragon of Five Evils, she'd bring the heirs in. Although what Lin Yi was about to do was a little dangerous, Tian Chan wasn't too worried. After all, she and Lin Yi were on good terms. It wasn't the first time they'd met the dragon of Five Evils, so they were quite familiar with it. Lin Yi made arrangements for Xingyan and Han Jingjing before jumping up. There was still some distance between them and the cave, so Lin Yi couldn't see what was going on inside. He didn't know if the dragon of Five Evils had noticed them or not. The dragon of Five Evils was very intelligent, and it liked to play tricks on people. As a result, Lin Yi wasn't sure if it sensed people coming or not. Was it planning on toying with them later? Tian Chan followed closely behind Lin Yi. She went up the platform, and the other heirs followed behind her, going up the platform. These were the people closest to Lin Yi, so Lin Yi didn't lure out the dragon of Five Evils straight away. He wanted to wait for them to come up and settle down before doing so. Meng Yao, Yushu and Xiao Xiao all went up, and now it was Tang Yun's turn. She saw Lin Yi, but she couldn't recognize him. She was very conflicted, and when she got to the platform, she slipped and fell. She was a sky class, and wouldn't be injured from falling, but she still jumped in fright. Ah! Lin Yi was watching the heirs go up the platform, and when he saw Tang Yun fall, he subconsciously reached out to grab her, preventing her from falling. It was an unintentional action, but when Tang Yun's hand was grabbed by Lin Yi's heart started pounding. It was a familiar feeling. Feeling the coldness of Tang Yun's hand, Lin Yi's heart skipped a beat. It was as if they'd held hands in a past life. Lin Yi didn't want to let go. Lin Yi looked at Tang Yun stunned. Tang Yun's face was red, and her hand was caught by Lin Yi. She couldn't pull it out, but she didn't want to either. Tang Yun wanted time to stop right there. She wanted the world to be left with only her and Lin Yi, and no one else. But she knew that it was just a fantasy, not realistic. She hadn't broken through to full circle, and she couldn't recognize Lin Yi yet. She just had to endure it a little longer. Maybe it would be soon. Ahem. Sydney, who was behind Tang Yun, couldn't help coughing. She didn't want anything to happen to Tang Yun at such a crucial moment. Tang Yun woke up from her thoughts, and subconsciously wanted to pull her hand out from Lin Yi's hand. But the ring on Tang Yun's hand scratched Lin Yi's palm. Lin Yi let go, and saw the ring on Tang Yun's ring finger. Lin Yi was stunned. Usually, a woman would only wear a ring on her ring finger after getting engaged or married. But Tang Yun, as an heir, was wearing a ring. This made Lin Yi a little confused. However, when the ring was reflected in Lin Yi's eyes, Lin Yi's mind went blank, as if something was attacking his brain. Countless memory fragments at this moment rushed into Lin Yi's brain. The messy memory fragments instantly filled Lin Yi's brain. The barbecue stall on the food street, the girl under the shade of the tree in the afternoon, the girl who accompanied him back home, the tolerant girlfriend. Lin Yi grabbed Tang Yun's hand once more. Those messy memories slowly formed into a complete set of memories, becoming clearer and clearer in his mind. Those beautiful memories formed a happy love history. Chapter 35:10. Was it his past life? But the time, place, and people were all in this life. This ring left a deep impression on Lin Yi. This was the first time Lin Yi bought a ring in the mall, and he gave it to his first girlfriend. His thoughts seemed to return to the night when he established his relationship with Tang Yun. Tang Yun was kidnapped by Zhong Pingliang and Zhang Naipeo, and Lin Yi saved her. It was also that night that Tang Yun's impression of Lin Yi changed drastically. If it wasn't for Zhong Pingliang, Lin Yi wouldn't have been able to piece these trivial memories together so quickly. But with Zhong Pingliang's help, it was much easier for Lin Yi. In addition, when he first bought this ring, Lin Yi had a deep impression of it. He bought it at a place called Lu Weishan Jewelry Store. And there was another jewelry store salesgirl who sneered at him. Later, when he went to Lu Weishan to get pure topaz, he felt that the name Lu Weishan was very familiar. It felt like déjà vu, but he didn't remember it at the time. Now it seemed that it was because he had bought the jewelry from the shop. This group of fragmented memories slowly intertwined, and it made Lin Yi remember a lot. But why did Tang Yun go to Snow Valley? Why didn't Lin Yi have this memory? Lin Yi remembered the previous memories, but there was nothing after that. Tang Yun seemed to have disappeared into thin air, directly went to Snow Valley, and left Lin Yi's life. But this shouldn't be possible. Why did Tang Yun suddenly leave? Did someone force her? Or did she have no other choice? And why did he forget Tang Yun? It was as if this person had never appeared in his life. Although, there were some memory gaps, but before, Lin Yi didn't suspect too much. After all, losing memories was too strange, but now it seemed that it really happened to Lin Yi. And why? He didn't have Tang Yun's memory, and Tang Yun didn't seem to recognize him. Why was it that Ming Yao, Yu Shu, and even Xiao Xiao never mentioned Tang Yun to him? Could it be that everyone had collectively lost their memories? That didn't seem right. It was almost as if Mrs. Tang hadn't lost her memory. Otherwise, why would Mrs. Tang treat her so well? Always giving him good things, and helping him time and time again? At that time, Lin Yi was a little confused. He thought that Mrs. Tang was a good person, but when he recalled her personality, he didn't know whether to laugh or cry. Perhaps Mrs. Tang only treated him this way. Yin Yun. Lin Yi tried calling her name. Tang Yun's body trembled. She raised her head in disbelief, and looked at Lin Yi. Did Lin Yi think of something? At this moment, her heart was conflicted. She hoped that Lin Yi would think of her. But she was also afraid that it would affect his cultivation. Yun Yun. You remember me, right? Lin Yi saw Tang Yun's reaction, and immediately confirmed that Tang Yun remembered him. Otherwise, she wouldn't have such a big reaction. If someone she didn't know called her that, She would only show some confusion. She wouldn't be this excited. Mr. Lin, you've got the wrong person. Tang Yun took a deep breath and said faintly, Linny, please behave yourself. This is the heir of Snowy Valley. Don't touch her, or I won't be polite. Sydney spoke up as well, warning Linny. This was a crucial moment for Tang Yun to break through to sky-class perfection. If Linny disturbed her emotions, it would be a huge sin. Linny looked at Sydney coldly. You think you can threaten me? You can ask Kong Ming Ming. Even Elder Xianchen wouldn't dare to talk to me like this. You. Sydney's breath stopped. Seeing that Kong Ming Ming didn't respond, she couldn't help but feel annoyed. Indeed, with Lin Yi's strength, he was basically invincible under the heavenly Tao. However, Lin Yi's life was saved by Snowy Valley. Thinking of this, Sydney frowned and said to Lin Yi, Young hero Lin, can I have a word with you? Oh, Lin Yi didn't want to have a word with her. But looking at Sydney, he didn't want to offend her. After all, her relationship with Tang Yun was not bad. There might be some hidden story, so he nodded and said, All right. Lin Yi followed Sydney to a cliff not far away. Although Kong Ming Ming saw it, he didn't say anything. Lin Yi would die sooner or later anyway. So what if he died earlier or later? Young hero Lin, you must have remembered something, right? Shueli let out a sigh. She knew that the heartless herb's medicinal liquid was effective for ordinary cultivators, but it was ineffective for those who had reached the heaven-level great completion. As long as there was an opportunity, one could recover their memory. Since Lin Yi was already a master of this level, Sydney wasn't surprised that he could remember. That's right. Why is Tang Yun in Snowy Valley? What's going on? I hope you can give me a reasonable explanation. Lin Yi said, Although your current strength is enough to look down on Snowy Valley, I still have to say that you and Tang Yun had a deal with Snowy Valley. I don't want you to break the deal after you have the strength. Shueli said, Although the strong are respected in the world of cultivation, at least we helped you before. Moreover, Tang Yun agreed to the deal willingly. Meng Yao and Yushu were there too, and they didn't object, so. All right, tell me what happened. Sydney's words made Lin Yi even more surprised. Meng Yao and Yushu knew about it too. And it was a deal. Tang Yun was willing. Back then, you were possessed and needed the ice spirit fruit. But Meng Yao's family had some problems and couldn't take out that much money. So, Tang Yun accepted Snowy Valley's inheritance at that time. And we used him as a condition to solve the problem for you. Sydney said simply. Don't you remember that you were possessed? Oh. Lin Yi fell into deep thought. Indeed, that was the second time he opened the stone door after he returned to West Star Village. He was prepared to use the method on the stone door to refine his body, but in the end he was possessed. Chapter 35:11. Now that he thought about it, it turned out that he didn't resolve his qi deviation by himself, but Shuegu helped him. So that was how Tang Yun stayed in Shuegu. Thinking of this, Lin Yi sighed. Sydney was right. Shuegu was kind to him. But Lin Yi didn't understand. Tang Yun is already an inheritor. I naturally won't force her to give up. In fact, Ming Yao, Yushu, and Yuning all went to their sects to become practitioners with my permission. What are you guarding against? Why do you want me to forget Tang Yun? What did you do to me? Our Shuegu's mantra is different from other sects. Not all inheritors have the same mantra. Sydney said, Shuegu cultivates the heartless mantra. It needs to be heartless in order to break through to heaven full cycle. Although inheritors don't have any barriers, if their mantra can't break through, it's useless. Our original idea was to let Tang Yun forget you, and then let her cultivate the heartless mantra. But Tang Yun was afraid that you would bear the pain of parting. So she gave you the heartless grass to drink. So you forgot her. This way, she could bear the pain of love alone, and slowly cultivate. Because you forgot her, she didn't think about you anymore. So she could cultivate smoothly. Right now, Tang Yun is only left with the last step. Although you remember her, I hope you won't disturb her, and let her smoothly ascend to heaven realm great perfection. Otherwise, it will affect the entire inheritance plan, and the heaven realm island plan. I see. Lin Yi took a deep breath and nodded. Okay, for the sake of the big picture, I cannot disturb her. But once she advances to the great perfection of the heaven rank, can we recognize each other? Yes. Sydney hesitated, but didn't reject, because she knew that even if she wanted to, Lin Yi wouldn't agree. Lin Yi's question was only out of respect for her. Moreover, Tang Yun had advanced to heaven full cycle. The next step was to advance to heaven Dao, and when that time came, it was unknown how she would advance. Therefore, Sydney didn't think too much about it. Okay, Lin Yi replied. He glanced at Tang Yun from the corner of his eyes. He really wanted to hug Tang Yun in his arms. She was such a good girl. In order to not let Lin Yi suffer, she endured the pain herself. Lin Yi really wanted to tell her that he really missed her, and that she had suffered during this period of time. However, he had promised Sydney. However, he couldn't do that. Take Tang Yun away. I'm going to lure the dragon of 5 demons. Sydney nodded and walked towards Tang Yun's direction without saying anything. Tang Yun had been waiting anxiously for the result. She didn't know what Sydney and Lin Yi talked about, and she didn't use her sky-class senses. If she did, Sydney would definitely feel it. But although Tang Yun didn't know what Sydney and Lin Yi talked about, it was obvious that they had come to an agreement. Tang Yun sighed and left with Sydney. The most disappointed were Xiao Xiao, Ming Yao and Yushu. They were all hoping that Lin Yi and Tang Yun would reunite. Yushu and Xiao Xiao had discussed it, and they were ready to shout, "Together, together, together!" But Sydney and Lin Yi didn't give them that chance. Lin Yi walked towards the Dragon of 5 Demons cave, while Tian Chan organized the inheritors to the side of the cave. He tiptoed into the cave, and Lin Yi realized that the Dragon of 5 Demons already knew what was going on outside. It was staring at the cave, and when it saw Lin Yi, it yawned in surprise. "Roar! Why are you here? Why can't it be me?" Lin Yi smiled bitterly. "Why is it always you?" the Dragon of 5 Demons asked. Lin Yi was speechless. "Do me a favor. Give me your cave for a while, and then come out for a walk with me. Let's pretend to fight and fight for 300 rounds. How about that?" "Boring." The Dragon of 5 Demons shook its head. "I've already touched the path of the heavens, and I have time to study it. I don't want to do something boring." "Senior Ghost, this Dragon of 5 Demons isn't very obedient. Why don't you come out and teach it a lesson?" Lin Yi started to use the tiger's skin as an excuse. "If you didn't have a powerful backer, I would have thrown you out long ago. Do you think I would be able to talk to you calmly?" The Dragon of 5 Demons was a little depressed. "All right, stop looking, I'll cooperate with you. You really have nothing better to do." "Heh. Actually, I have a presumptuous request. Later, I'll give you some blood, and you'll give me some blood. How about that?" Lin Yi asked shamelessly. "You're asking for a yard after giving me an inch, aren't you?" The Dragon of 5 Demons stared at Lin Yi angrily. "Senior Ghost, it won't give it to me." Lin Yi said, "What else can you do besides calling for your backer?" The Dragon of 5 Demons was even more depressed. "All right, I'll give it to you, all right? Thank you." Lin Yi chuckled. In fact, the Senior Ghost was sleeping, and it couldn't care less about something as trivial as Lin Yi's. As long as it wasn't a matter of life and death for Lin Yi, it would normally be in a state of hibernation. It wouldn't even communicate with Lin Yi, let alone teach the Dragon of 5 Demons a lesson. However, the Dragon of 5 Demons didn't know the relationship between Lin Yi and the ghost. It was afraid that Lin Yi would really call the ghost out and scare it, so it agreed to Lin Yi's request. "All right, let's pretend to fight. I'll be injured, and you give me some blood. Then I'll pretend to be defeated and run away. When you're done with the cave, I'll come back," the Dragon of 5 Demons said to Lin Yi. "Okay." Lin Yi nodded in satisfaction. There was an angry roar, and Lin Yi came running out of the dragon's cave. Behind him was a dragon that was chasing after him. Lin Yi didn't know what Lin Yi had done to offend it, but it looked like it was going crazy. Seeing that the Pentabane dragon had run out of the cave, Tian Chan quickly led the inheritors into the Pentabane dragon's cave. Then, according to Tian Chan's instructions, each of the inheritors occupied a spot in the Pentabane dragon's cave. Then they began to circulate the mantra and strengthen their inheritance. They also prepared to resist the pressure of the other Pentabane chis, and prepared to break through. Behind them were people from the sect protecting them. Tian Chan, on the other hand, was there to protect Guan Xian, as well as to coordinate the overall situation. Lin Yi ran out of the cave and led the dragon of 5 demons towards Kong Ming. As he ran, Lin Yi shouted, "The dragon of 5 demons is here! Everyone prepare for battle!" Chapter 35:12. Kong Xiaoming saw Lin Yi's dragon of 5 malevolence, and a cold smile flashed on his face. "Lin Yi, I've had enough of you. Let's see if you'll die today. I couldn't kill you in the common world, so I had to compromise and force a smile in front of you. But this time you're dead. Don't move, everyone. Lin Yi is the number 1 under the heavenly Tao, the number 1 wandering practitioner. Let him handle this on his own. We'll just be causing trouble if we go." Kong Ming smiled coldly at the other participants. All right, everyone nodded in agreement. This was a great thing. They didn't need to waste any energy. They could just stay here and get experience. Who wouldn't want that? As for Lin Yi's life or death, what did that have to do with them? They all had the same thought. But Xiao Ran, on the other hand, was nervous as he watched Lin Yi. He wanted to jump out and help. "Heroines, will young hero Lin be able to handle it alone? Why don't we go help him?" Xiao Ran suggested after some hesitation. It might piss off Kong Ming's group, but he couldn't just ignore it. After all, Lin Yi had stood up for him before. "Lin Yi bro should be able to handle it, we don't have to worry." Han Jingjing shook her head. "We'll just be causing trouble for him if we go." "Ah, I see." Xiao Ran blinked, but Xinyan nodded. He didn't say anything else. He was an outsider, after all, and these 2 people close to Lin Yi had said so. He had no choice but to let it go, though he still looked at Lin Yi nervously. "Liang bro will stick to our plan. Once Lin Yi loses, you deal with Xinyan, and I'll deal with that Xiao Ran. Leave Han Jingjing for my wife to torture." Kong Ming said. "No problem." Zhong Pinliang nodded. It wasn't easy for him to have a chance to turn things around, so he naturally wouldn't let it go. Actually, at the end of the day, the hatred between him and Lin Yi wasn't that big. It was just that small incident at school. It was just that it had been fermented and upgraded step by step to where it was today. Facing Lin Yi had become an obsession. Defeating Lin Yi had become his goal. He refused to accept it. Why were they all classmates? Why was his fortuitous encounter not bad? Climbing to the peak step by step, becoming the ancestor of the everyday sect. How could he not be a match for Lin Yi? Why? He wanted to prove his Tao. He wanted to make a comeback. He wanted to step on Lin Yi and prove that he was the most powerful existence. At the thought, Pinliang swore to himself. He had to make this trial become Lin Yi's burial ground. However, he watched as Lin Yi and the Dragon of 5 Malevolence fought for a long time without any results. It was as if the Dragon of 5 Malevolence couldn't do anything to Lin Yi. Kong Ming was getting anxious, but he could see that Lin Yi's steps were very precise. Every time the Dragon of 5 Malevolence was about to hit Lin Yi, but Lin Yi dodged it quickly. This wasn't the way to go on. Although Lin Yi's chi would definitely dry up after a long time, the problem was that Lin Yi was a sky-class full-circle master. Even if he ran here for a month, he wouldn't be able to recover. Even if he ran here for a month, his stamina wouldn't dry up. With that thought, Kong Ming was a little depressed. If he waited for 3 days, the inheritor would have already left. Lin Yi wouldn't be finished by then. If this continued, how could he kill Lin Yi? "No, this isn't a solution," Kong Ming said. "Liang bro, do you have any good ideas? What else can we do? We can't just help the Dragon of 5 Malevolence attack Lin Yi, right?" Pinliang shook his head. "If you think it's possible, then we'll go and attack Lin Yi." "That won't work." Kong Ming shook his head. This was a matter of principle. If they didn't control the Dragon of 5 Malevolence and let it return to the cave, disturbing the inheritor or injuring the inheritor, then Kong Ming would have to bear a huge responsibility. However, Kong Ming's eyes lit up after hearing Pinliang's words. He immediately came up with a plan. "We can't help the Dragon of 5 Malevolence attack Lin Yi openly, but we can play dirty tricks in the dark." "Play dirty tricks in the dark?" Pinliang paused. "That's right, we can kill Lin Yi's woman first, distract Lin Yi, and then he'll be distracted, giving the Dragon of 5 Malevolence a chance." Kong Ming said. "That's a good idea. Then, who do we kill first? Pinliang nodded. To be honest, it was a little shameful to lay a hand on a woman. He was the ancestor of the everyday sect, after all, and doing something like that wasn't very appropriate. Let's kill Wang Xinyan first. Leave that Han Jingjing to my wife, little 11, and we'll kill her together. Kong Xiaoming's eyes flashed with viciousness. Lin Yi had made little 11 look like a ghost, and every night when they did it, Kong Xiaoming had to turn off the lights, not daring to look straight at him. All right. Pinliang nodded and looked at Naipeo. Pow, I'll leave this woman to you. She'll be a great tonic for you. But you're already a perfected master. There's not much use to her qi. It's a waste. Haha, it's fine. I'll just treat it as a game. Naipeo said faintly before walking over to Wang Xinyan. Hey, Wang Xinyan, right? I'm Zhang Naipeo. And I know you and I have nothing against you. And you're quite pretty. But you're Lin Yi's woman, you know? If you die, you can only blame yourself for finding the wrong man. Ah. Xinyan looked at Naipeo stunned. You're going to kill me? Naipeo was speechless. Where did this woman get her sky-class perfected strength from? Why was she no different from a weak girl? He said helplessly. That's right. I'm going to use my practitioner's arts and suck your strength dry. Don't resist if you don't want the pain, or you'll suffer even more. Xinyan paused again. What practitioner's arts are you using? Wasp absorption arts. Naipeo said proudly. Oh. Xinyan nodded. Then, can I use my practitioner's arts as well? Of course you can. But if you use your practitioner's arts to defend against it, it'll only drain your qi faster. Naipeo said. Plus, once you use it, you won't be able to stop. Oh. Then what if I accidentally hurt you? Xinyan nodded a little nervous. Chapter 35:13. Pow! Don't waste time talking to her, just kill her. Pinliang frowned. All right. Naipeo nodded without hesitation. Hey, what's so great about bullying a girl? Xiao Ran couldn't take it anymore. I'm telling you, don't be a busybody. I'll kill you if you keep this up. Naipeo pointed at Xiao Ran as he threatened fiercely. He used to be Pinliang's follower back in school, and his words were no different from a gangster's. It had been a while since Xiao Ran heard someone curse at him. He was speechless. Still, he said, the purpose of this test is to protect the inheritor. We're all fighting against the 5 malefic dragon together. It's not a place for some people to vent their anger. Oh, go ahead if you want to fight. I won't stop you. Naipeo curled his lips. But if you dare try, you'll die. Xiao Ran, let me try. I haven't fought anyone since I broke through to sky class perfection. I want to gain some experience. Xinyan said. Xiao Ran paused, then suddenly remembered that Xinyan was a sky class full mastery as well. He thought she was just a weak girl before. He couldn't help but smile bitterly at the thought. But since Xinyan had already said so, he couldn't really interfere. He nodded. All right, be careful then. I heard that Zhang Naipeo's practitioner's arts are filled with evil energy. Okay. Xinyan nodded. All right, I'll be careful. Naipeo was speechless. The ignorant were fearless after all. He didn't know how Xinyan got to sky class perfection. But why did she look like she didn't know anything? She didn't even know how a practitioner tried to do it. They were both sky class perfection. But how could they be the same? The same level, different strength, and different practitioner's arts. Naipeo started channeling his practitioner's arts, and so did Xinyan. Because she was a woman, Naipeo didn't want to take advantage of her. He was a eunuch too, after all. Pow, give him a hard one. Pinliang frowned. Xinyan and Naipeo were already at each other's throats, but Kong Mingming and Pinliang were a little surprised. Lin Yi, on the other hand, didn't seem to be affected by Xinyan's actions at all. He only glanced at her once, and then didn't even look at her again. Could it be that Lin Yi didn't care about Xinyan? That's impossible. That's not realistic. If he doesn't care, why would he bring her along? She didn't care why they had to go against the 5 Elements sect and the Kong family because of her. If he didn't care, why would he help her raise her strength? Kong Mingming and Pinliang couldn't figure out what was going on. Therefore, Pinliang told Naipeo to give Xinyan a hard one. All right. Naipeo was planning on using his wasp absorption arts to kill Xinyan, but Penliang's words left him with no choice but to change his mind and use the chrysanthemum art's mother and son chi against Xinyan. It was a little cruel to torture a girl, but Naipeo still had to listen to Penliang, and so he decided to torture Xinyan to distract Lin Yi. Put out your hand. Let's exchange palms, Naipeo said to Xinyan. Oh, okay. Xinyan nodded and put out her hand. And so, Naipeo's and Xinyan's hands met. The way the two fought shocked everyone who was watching. Naipeo was acting cool, and Xinyan was acting cute. It didn't look like a normal fight between practitioners at all. It was like they had discussed it beforehand. But other than Han Jingjing, everyone could see what would happen to Xinyan. She'd die from having her chi sucked dry, and that was a horrible way to die. Even if she didn't die without strength, she'd still be alive. Even if she didn't die, it was still a fate worse than death. Or if Naipeo injected his chi into her, she'd be tortured to the point where she wished she was dead. Either way, it was extremely cruel. Xinyan's and Naipeo's palms met, and Naipeo was fully confident that he would be able to inject his chi into Xinyan. But as soon as he channeled his practitioner's arts, he felt that something wasn't right. Although his true chi had successfully entered Wang Xinyan's body, he was surprised to find that his true chi didn't stop. Instead, it continued to flow into Wang Xinyan's body. What was going on? Naipeo's face paled in shock. Why did it have an automatic chi flow reversal? That wasn't right. The practitioner's arts he was channeling was the wasp absorption arts, and he could only get a small amount of chi into Xinyan's body. It couldn't be flowing like this. His practitioner's arts didn't have this function. What was wrong with it? Xinyan didn't think that her Nanming arts would actually work, and started absorbing chi from Naipeo's body. Xinyan was a sky-class late-phase peak now, and this chi wasn't very useful to her. But it didn't affect her absorption. Naipeo's face paled as he tried to stop the practitioner's arts, but it was just like what he said before. He couldn't stop it at all. In actuality, it was Naipeo's unluck. If it weren't for Penliang telling him to go hard on Xinyan, he would have used his wasp absorption arts on her already. But the wasp absorption arts and Nanming arts were both derived from the same practitioner's arts, and they were on par with each other. Neither of them could do anything to the other. This meant that no one would be able to absorb the other's chi, and the two would be immune to each other. But now it was different. Naipeo was injecting his chi into Xinyan, and now he was falling for Xinyan's Nanming arts. The pure chi in his body kept flowing into Xinyan's body, and he couldn't stop it even if he wanted to. Naipeo's face was very ugly, but he couldn't do anything about it. Of course, Penliang and the others didn't know what was going on. They only saw Xinyan and Naipeo exchanging palms. And while Naipeo's face wasn't looking too good, they thought that he was trying his best to neutralize Xinyan's chi. But slowly they realized that something wasn't right. Xinyan's face had been calm the whole time, but Naipeo's face wasn't right at all. Not only was he pale, but beads of sweat were dripping down his forehead. Chapter 35:14. Naipeo's chi was depleting heavily, and he was gritting his teeth as he tried to fight it off, trying to slow down the absorption and think of a way to escape. He couldn't speak at all, but he didn't want Penliang to worry. Not good. Wang Xinyan knows the wasp absorption arts as well. Naipeo's chi leaked out as he spoke, and the defense in his body was broken. The chi rushed towards Xinyan, and not long after, he fell to the ground. Penliang paused when he heard that Xinyan knew the wasp absorption arts as well. But before he could react, Naipeo was already on the ground. Xinyan was kind and merciful. She didn't kill Naipeo straight away. She knew that Naipeo was an enemy, but she'd never killed someone with her own hands before. She couldn't bring herself to do it. And so, she let Naipeo go, sparing his life. Pow! Penliang panicked as he ran over and picked Naipeo up, taking out a pill and shoving it into Naipeo's mouth. Naipeo swallowed the pill and rolled his eyes, barely managing to keep his life. Xinyan had been merciful before, but a sky-class late-phase peak using the Nanming arts was too powerful, and she didn't want to do that. Naipeo, on the other hand, couldn't take it and almost died. But even with his life, Naipeo had lost all of his strength. He'd become a cripple who wasn't even a golden class. Liang bro, I'm done. Naipeo's face was pale. I can't go to Sky Class Island anymore. What? You're done? Pinliang was shocked. One had to know that Naipeo was an important part of the Sky Class Island. If he were to die, then Sky Class Island wouldn't be opened, and no one would be able to break through to Sky Class. When the time came, he was an important protector for Tagan Dragon, as important as an inheritor. Although Naipeo wasn't here, if Tagan Dragon had been a bit stronger, then this plan might have worked. But the problem was that Tagan Dragon wasn't very strong. Even though he had Patriarch Xuanqin's help and nurturing, he had not yet recovered. He had already smoothly advanced to the great perfection of the Heaven Rank, and could be used as one of the most important pawns in the Heaven Rank Islands plan. But because of his previous injury, although it had healed, Tagan Dragon had lost his sharpness and perseverance. If that was the case, during the process of opening the Heavenly Step Island, there would be a lot of problems. If Taganlong couldn't hold on, and Naipeo couldn't protect him, then he'd be done for. Pinliang may have a grudge against Lin Yi, but he was also the Mad Dragon Elder of the Everyday and Everyday sect. He naturally knew how important Naipeo was to this plan. If Naipeo wasn't here, would the Xianqin Elder go crazy? Thinking of this, Pinliang couldn't help but feel a headache coming on. He didn't expect Xinyan to be able to cripple Naipeo. That's right, this Wang Xinyan knows the wasp absorption arts as well, and she's no weaker than me. Naipeo said seriously. Why yeah, you're courting death. Pinliang was furious. If the plan was ruined, then they'd all die together. He raised the golden dragon whip in his hand. He was ready to use his strongest technique, Mad Dragon Tail, to kill Xinyan to vent his anger. Wait! Kong Mingming suddenly yelled. Pinliang frowned and looked at Kong Mingming unhappily. Assistant Kong, what's the meaning of this? What are you doing? Don't kill her, she's useful. Kong Mingming said quickly. What do you mean? It's you who wants to kill her. But it's also you who doesn't. What are you doing? Pinliang raged. With Naipeo crippled, the Heaven Rank Island plan will be greatly affected. But since Xinyan also knows the wasp absorption arts, she can also absorb the demonic energy in the 5 Malice Chi and protect Tagan Dragon and the other inheritors. Kong Mingming said. Pinliang paused, but it made sense after thinking about it. Zhang Naipeo's role was like that, and so was Xinyan's. It wasn't like he couldn't use Xinyan as a replacement. But that way, the Everyday and Everyday sect would go from being the leader to a subordinate sect, and he wouldn't have anything to do. He regretted listening to Xiaoming and sending Zhang Naipeo to kill Xinyan. Not only did Xinyan fail, but Zhang Naipeo was the one who'd killed her. Alright, I'll keep her alive. But Lin Yi can't be kept alive. Pinliang was determined as well. He was going to kill Lin Yi himself. Mad Dragon Fury was Pinliang's ultimate skill, able to force weaker cultivators to submit to him. Of course, it could also force spirit beasts to submit to him. But whether or not it worked on dragons, Pinliang wasn't sure. He was going to pressure the Dragon of 5 Evils, provoking its rage. The battle between Lin Yi and the Dragon of 5 Fiends seemed intense. But a closer look would reveal that it was more like an eagle chasing a chick. One was chasing, and the other was running. Neither of them seemed to be serious. The Dragon of 5 Evils didn't, and neither did Lin Yi. As such, Lin Yi could maintain his chi until the inheritor's blessing ended, and there wouldn't be any results. If he wanted the Dragon of 5 Evils to kill Lin Yi, he had to make it angry. Spirit beasts like this had a temper, and it was fine if you didn't piss it off, but once you did, it would retaliate like a storm. And so, Pinliang decided to pressure the Dragon of 5 Evils a little, provoking its rage and letting it kill Lin Yi. The Dragon of 5 Evils was a type of dragon, but it was a mutated one. It wasn't a real dragon anymore, and so Pinliang was confident in pressuring it. After all, he was the real dragon's practitioner's arts. Mad Dragon Fury, Dragon Totem. Pinliang took a step forward and yelled. The whip was like a raging dragon, flashing with a golden light as it lashed at the dragon of 5 demons. The head of the whip was like a dragon breathing fire. And even the thick skin of the dragon of 5 demons couldn't help but feel like it was being barbecued. Pinliang took a step forward and roared. Pinliang roared, and the image of a dragon totem appeared behind him. For double insurance, Pinliang used Mad Dragon Fury and the dragon totem at the same time, aiming to make the dragon of 5 evils submit. Chapter 35:15. The dragon only looked like a dragon. Perhaps it had some ancient genes in it. But it wasn't a dragon. It couldn't fight against Pinliang's dragon totem at all. It wasn't willing, but there was nothing it could do. This wasn't just the fear of the dragon totem. It was also the natural pressure of the spirit beasts. It was too strong, and it couldn't fight back. Ha 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 ha. Pinliang laughed maniacally. As far as he was concerned, the dragon of 5 fiends wouldn't have a high IQ after being pestered by Lin Yi non-stop. Pinliang assumed that the dragon of 5 fiends would feel humiliated after being pressured, and would attack Lin Yi in a frenzy. Lin Yi didn't understand what was going on. What was Pinliang trying to do? Was he trying to help him? After seeing Naipeo crippled by Wang Xinyan, was he trying to get on his good side and help him fight the dragon of 5 evils? It wasn't very likely. But this was a good chance for Lin Yi to cover up. He and the dragon of 5 evils had discussed this before, and they were going to find a chance to pretend that the dragon of 5 evils couldn't win and let Lin Yi stab it to get some of its blood. But right now, Lin Yi was running in front, and the dragon of 5 evils was chasing from behind. Lin Yi didn't have a chance to counterattack. If he cheated, it would look too fake, and Lin Yi wouldn't be able to do it. This was a golden opportunity. Lin Yi saw the dragon of 5 evils lying on the ground, and quickly took out a small knife and bottle from his jade space. He stabbed the dragon's leg, and let out some blood, filling up the bottle. Roar! The dragon of 5 evils pretended to be in pain and roared. Pinliang was stunned as well. He didn't expect this. Lin Yi was stabbing the dragon of 5 evils with a knife? Was Lin Yi trying to slay a dragon? Was he trying to defy the heavens? It was already good enough to fight the dragon of 5 evils, but slaying a dragon was just a pipe dream. But this was good too. Pinliang was worried that the dragon of 5 wrath wouldn't get angry. Not only did it get pressured, Lin Yi even gave it a stab. It wouldn't be the king of spirit beasts if it didn't go on a rampage. You won't die if you don't court death. If you hadn't stabbed him, you might not have died. Now that you've stabbed him, you're going to die. That would be death for sure. However, the 5 evils dragon's skin was really thick and tough. When Lin Yi stabbed it with his saber earlier, the 5 evils dragon's skin was really thick and tough. He had already used the full power of the peak late stage of heaven rank, and only managed to make a small wound. This was not a beast that ordinary cultivators could deal with. At the thought of this, Zhong Pingliang quickly stopped the circulation of violent dragon power. Because Lin Yi was still within close range of the dragon of 5 evils. Once this pressure disappeared, Lin Yi would probably be sent flying with a single slap, right? Waha! After Zhong Pingliang stopped, he looked at Lin Yi proudly, imagining Lin Yi being tortured to death by the dragon of 5 evils. However, the scene he imagined didn't happen. The dragon of 5 evils stood up. It didn't attack Lin Yi, but with a whoosh. Instead, it turned around and attacked Zhong Pingliang, who was standing not far away. Ah! Zhong Pingliang jumped in fright. He didn't expect the dragon of 5 evils to attack him instead of Lin Yi. He was scared out of his wits and quickly ran away. And so, the dragon of 5 evils that was chasing Lin Yi became chasing Zhong Pingliang. Zhong Pingliang was depressed. What the hell was going on? The dragon of 5 evils didn't look very smart. How could it tell that the pressure came from him? And even if it came from him, Lin Yi had stabbed it before. It didn't retaliate against Lin Yi, who was closest to it, but it pounced on Zhong Pingliang, who was not far away. It was unbelievable. But Zhong Pingliang had no choice. How could he reason with it? There was no way to reason with him. Moreover, he did not dare to continue using the Violent Dragon Divine exercise. Although the Violent Dragon Divine exercise was effective against experts under Heaven Stage Great Circle, And it was not weak against the five evils dragon, but when he used the violent dragon divine exercise, the consumption of his physical strength and true chi was quite large. If he kept using it, then his physical strength and true chi would be quickly exhausted. What if he ran out of chi? Wouldn't he be attacked by the dragon of five evils? Without chi, he wouldn't be able to run even if he wanted to. The pressure of violent dragon power was used to attack during the pressure, but the dragon of five evils was suppressed. Even if it attacked, what use would it be? Who could do anything to it? Didn't they see that Lin Yi, the number one under Heavenly Tao, used all his strength and only managed to make a small wound? This dragon of five evils couldn't be dealt with at all. The elder Xianxian had told him so before. If he couldn't deal with it, then what use was the pressure? Right now Naipeo was still crippled. If he hadn't been crippled, he could have asked Naipeo to try and see if he could use his wasp absorption arts to suck all the chi out of the dragon's body, making it drop to below golden class. But Naipeo couldn't try it out, and Zhong Pingliang was left alone. Assistant Kong, send someone to help me. Pingliang was sweating profusely. He didn't have Lin Yi's exquisite footwork, and so Lin Yi fighting the dragon of five evils seemed like a joke. But if it was him, he'd be in grave danger. One moment of carelessness, and he'd be hit by the dragon of five evils' claws. Kong Mingming was hesitant as well. He couldn't decide if he should help Pingliang or not, because things had deviated from their original plan. They'd wanted the dragon of five evils to deal with Lin Yi, but now, it had abandoned Lin Yi and only chased after Pingliang. Now if they were to help, it'd mean that they'd be fighting together, and it'd be impossible to kill Lin Yi. Lin Yi, why aren't you helping? Don't you want to help? Kong Mingming rolled his eyes and called out to Lin Yi. I've been working hard all this time, and I'm tired. I need to rest. Lin Yi said faintly, if you don't help, I'll assume that you're not stopping. Kong Mingming said, oh, all right, I'll give it a try. Lin Yi nodded, smiling coldly in his heart. You force my hand. I wasn't planning on attacking Little 11 in the test, since everyone was targeting the dragon of five evils. If Lin Yi had targeted Little 11 alone, it'd be too obvious. But now, it seemed like Lin Yi wasn't planning on letting Little 11 go. If Kong Mingming wasn't being nice, then Lin Yi couldn't blame him. Chapter 35:16. Roar. The dragon of five evils roared at Lin Yi as if it was annoyed, but Lin Yi knew it. Lin Yi ran and pretended to chase after the dragon of five evils. At this time, the dragon of five evils seemed to be a little afraid of Lin Yi. Seeing the dagger in Lin Yi's hand, it didn't dare to get close. What the hell was going on? Wasn't the dragon of five evils chasing Lin Yi? Why was it Lin Yi chasing the dragon of five evils now? This dragon of five evils was so cowardly. Was it afraid of Lin Yi after being stabbed? But he had been suppressing it for a long time. Why was it not hurt at all? It even dared to chase after him? Pingliang thought gloomily. However, he was afraid of the dragon of five evils. Naturally, he ran towards Kong Mingming, where there were more people. This saved Lin Yi the trouble of pretending to chase after him. Kong Mingming was shocked and quickly said to everyone, "Get ready to fight." As soon as he finished speaking, the dragon of five evils suddenly sped up and rushed in front of him. Fortunately, Kong Mingming was a cunning person. As soon as he finished speaking, he dodged and the dragon of five evils grabbed Little 11, who was next to Kong Mingming. Ah! Little 11 exclaimed. She didn't expect the dragon of five evils to come so suddenly. Kong Mingming saved me. In fact, even if Kong Mingming didn't run, the dragon of five evils wouldn't have caught him. It was following Lin Yi's order to catch Little 11. But Kong Mingming didn't know that. He was shocked when he saw Little 11. Luckily he ran fast, or else he would have been caught. Save Little 11? Kong Mingming wouldn't do anything. Previously, he had concocted pills for her, because the Five Elements sect had enough energy stones to replenish his physical strength and true chi, so he could concoct pills indefinitely. Moreover, he didn't have to spend any money on the materials. He wanted to curry favor with Ancestor Xianxian while he was at it. But to ask him to risk his life to save the 11th? What a joke. Kong Mingming didn't dare to do it. But on the surface he still shouted, Hey, that dinosaur. Let go of that heroine. The dragon of 5 evils glanced at Kong Ming Ming coldly. Roar. Kong Ming Ming was so scared that he almost knelt on the ground. Little 11 looked at Kong Ming Ming's cowardly appearance and suddenly felt a little desperate. Her breathing became a little rapid as she struggled to say, Kong Ming Ming, quickly ask them to save me. If I die, my father, Patriarch Xianqian, will not let you off. Everyone, let's go together. Rush up and kill the dragon of 5 evils. Xiaoming roared and turned to Pinliang. Liang bro, hurry up and give the 5 malefic dragons some more pressure. Make it let little 11 go. My physical strength and true qi are almost used up. The pressure won't last long. Zhong Pingliang said. I can only do it for 30 seconds at most. Otherwise it will affect my physical strength and true qi. No matter what. Zhong Pingliang still gave face to Kong Ming Ming. After all, he was the son-in-law of the 5 elements sex patriarch Xianqian. Zhong Pingliang couldn't ignore him. However, as soon as Zhong Pingliang finished speaking, the dragon of 5 evils seemed to be able to hear him. It directly raised its front claws and suddenly spun a few times in the air. Whoosh! It was thrown in Han Jingjing's direction. Ah! Little 11 was sent flying. To be honest, she only had a body full of levels, but she had no strength. She was a cripple whose meridians were all damaged. Even though she had increased her level, her body could not store up the physical strength and true qi, so she could not use the mantra. To be honest, her lifespan could be extended indefinitely. She was similar to Zhang Naipeo now. She still had the level, but she had no strength. Her real strength wasn't even at golden class. So her head went straight into the soil. There was no protection at all. Half of her body in the soil was unknown. Wah! There's a monster! Han Jingjing suddenly had 2 silver needles in her hands. She directly inserted them into little 11's legs. Originally, Han Jingjing wanted to insert herself in the middle, but she still didn't do it. She was not a vicious person. Although little 11 was very cruel to her in the past, it was impossible for Han Jingjing to be the same as little 11. Han Jingjing directly burned the silver needles with 2 elixir flames. Little 11's legs immediately trembled. Obviously she wasn't dead. She was still alive. The high temperature of the Dan fire passed through the silver needles to the meridians under her feet. Especially since her meridians were broken, it spread directly through her body, causing her unbearable pain. What are you doing? Kong Ming Ming was a little angry. Pinliang, on the other hand, didn't use mad dragon arts anymore. After all, little 11 had been thrown out. There was no need for him to waste his energy. There's a big monster here with a head like a leg. Jingjing is so scared. Han Jingjing said in a trembling voice. You! Kong Ming Ming was furious. He laughed coldly. I wanted little 11 to kill you personally, but I don't think I need to keep you alive anymore. Go to hell. You should be happy to die under my ultimate move. With that, Kong Ming Ming took a step forward. He put his hands together and pushed out, activating his strongest move, Dan Fire Bomb. Boom dash! A fireball flew towards Han Jingjing's head. This was the ultimate move that Elder Xianqian taught to Kong Ming Ming. He had been preparing to use it against the dragon of 5 malefic, but he didn't expect to use it on Han Jingjing. This was a move that wasted a lot of energy, but at this moment, Kong Ming Ming didn't care so much. However, at this time, the dragon of 5 malefic didn't feel the pressure of Pinliang's mad dragon arts. After throwing little 11 away, it ran towards little 11 again. When it reached him, it stretched out its front claws and pulled little 11 out of the ground. Boom dash! At this moment, Kong Ming Ming's Dan Fire Bomb flew over. Kong Ming Ming had calculated that the Dan Fire Bomb would pass above little 11's legs and hit Han Jingjing's head. However, the dragon of 5 malefic happened to pull little 11 out, so the Dan Fire Bomb hit little 11's abdomen, blowing a huge hole in it. Little 11 let out a blood-curdling screech, and the 5 Bane's dragon happened to raise its front claws in the air. As a result, little 11's upper and lower body were only connected by a layer of skin and flesh, and his bones had already been shattered. Thus, after just 2 swings, little 11's upper body was sent flying. Chapter 35:17. The Dragon of Five Evils also looked at little 11, who only had half of his body left in his claws. And then he curled his lips, and threw little 11's two legs directly at Kong Ming Ming. Kong Ming Ming was dumbfounded at this moment. He didn't expect his alchemic fire bomb to explode on little 11's body. Then he saw little 11's upper body fly away, and he was even more frightened. Although little 11 was killed by the Dragon of Five Evils, he should be considered an accomplice. He was the one who shot out the alchemic fire bomb. After returning, would the Xiantian ancestor blame him? What should he do? Bang! Little 11's two legs smashed on Kong Ming Ming's head, and it immediately made him even more dizzy. What should he do? Little 11 would definitely die. But now, how should he deal with the Dragon of Five Evils? Kong Ming Ming was a little regretful. Wasn't he a scumbag? Why did he let Zhong Pingliang pressure him for no reason? He just let Lin Yi and the Dragon of Five Evils run around in circles. Now, not only was little 11 dead, but the Dragon of Five Evils was also not going to let it go. Fuck! Kong Ming Ming stood up and ran. After killing little 11, the Dragon of Five Evils did not attack Han Jingjing, but turned to run towards Kong Ming Ming. Fortunately, Lin Yi did not kill Kong Ming Ming in time. Killing little 11 was basically the limit that the Xiantian ancestor could bear. But if even Kong Ming Ming was killed, then the Xiantian ancestor would probably go crazy. Lin Yi did not want to affect the opening of Heavenly Island, so he temporarily let Kong Ming Ming stay. Thus, Lin Yi was relieved. In the next time, it was the Dragon of Five Evils chasing Kong Ming Ming and Zhong Pingliang. Sometimes it chased Kong Ming Ming, and sometimes it chased Zhong Pingliang. Often when they were about to be caught, it would change targets, let them rest, and continue to chase after them. Gradually, Kong Ming Ming and Pingliang understood as well. The dragon was toying with them. However, was the wisdom of the Five Demons dragon really that high? Hey, Dragon of Five Evils, can you stop for a moment? I really can't take it anymore. For the past 2 days, Kong Ming Ming had been tormented miserably. Instead of attacking others, the Dragons of Five Evils chased after him. Of course, whenever he was exhausted, the Dragon of Five Wrath's target would become Pingliang. And when Pingliang couldn't take it anymore, it would switch to Kong Ming Ming. The cycle would repeat itself over and over again, leaving him helpless. The other trial takers also saw this clearly, so they were naturally happy to be at ease. They all ran to the side and hid, not participating in the fight with them. They just stood at the side as if it had nothing to do with them. Anyway, the Dragon of Five Evils was just toying with them. No one would die, so why did they have to stand up for them? Moreover, even if he forcefully stood up for them, that required strength as well, and they didn't have the strength to do so. The Dragon of Five Evils had thick skin and flesh, and was just one step away from understanding the heavenly Tao. It was about to become a spirit. This kind of spirit beast wasn't something that human cultivators, like them, could fight against. Moreover, didn't they see it earlier? Lin Yi was such a powerful existence. But in the end, Lin Yi used the strength of a great perfection late-phase heaven class. And all he did was leave a small wound on the Dragon of Five Evils. Even if they attacked together, they would probably be exhausted to the point where they wouldn't be able to cause any substantial damage to the Dragon of Five Evils. Kong Ming Ming had been running for a day and a night, and just as he recovered some strength, he was chased by the Dragon of Five Evils again. He was about to go crazy as he cursed. Dragon of Five Evils, fuck you. Roar. The Dragon of Five Evils understood, and quickened its pace. It used its claws to catch Kong Ming Ming, and then said to him, "I'll turn you into a mud horse first." With that said, the Dragon of Five Evils swung its front claws, and with a whoosh, Kong Ming Ming was smashed into the ground, just like little 11. Kong Ming Ming thought that after the Dragon of Five Evils threw him over, he could just play dead for a while. But he didn't expect to hear rumbling footsteps coming from behind him as soon as he entered the ground. This sound was so shocking. It was obviously the footsteps of the Dragon of Five Evils. Kong Ming Ming turned pale with fright. He wasn't little 11. He could use his strength and chi, and the ground was quite soft. He used a bit of strength to jump out of the ground, and when he raised his head, He saw the dragon of 5 evils right in front of him, ready to slap him with its claws. Kong Ming Ming jumped in fright and hurriedly sped up, dodging the attack. But the dragon of 5 evils didn't seem to have any intention of letting him go, and continued to chase after him at full speed. Kong Ming Ming didn't have a choice, and he smiled bitterly in his heart. This dragon of 5 evils was not only intelligent, but it could also understand and speak human language. This meant that the dragon of 5 evils had heard Kong Ming Ming and Zhong Pingliang's plan. No wonder the dragon of 5 evils didn't target anyone else, but only the two of them. Finally, Kong Ming Ming couldn't take it anymore, and he knelt on the ground, panting like a dying dog. The dragon of 5 evils stopped in front of him, looked at him, and didn't attack him. Instead, it ran towards Zhong Pingliang. Zhong Pingliang was sitting on the ground with Zhang Naipeo, recovering his qi. He was the same as Kong Ming Ming, relying on high-level pills like the qi recovery pill to recover qi. In the 5 evils wild, this kind of qi couldn't be used for training. Naipeo, on the other hand, was absorbing the 5 malice qi to train, but while he could absorb it, his training speed was simply too slow. He hadn't even stepped into golden class yet. He even wanted to find a few people to use the wasp absorption art to absorb Jin Qi. But the wasp absorption art could only be used at the profound phase. And it also had side effects. He couldn't keep absorbing Jin Qi, and he had to have enough time to absorb it every time. Only at sky class would he be able to absorb other people's qi as he pleased. This was much weaker than the Nanming divine art. Of course, from a sky class perspective, the two were about the same in terms of strength and effect. And so, even if Zhang Naipeo wanted to find someone to absorb qi from, he'd have to wait until he was at mystic class. He couldn't even step into golden class right now, and the sky class island plan was right in front of him. At this rate, Zhang Naipeo wouldn't be able to make it in time. This made him depressed. One had to know that he'd put in a lot of effort to reach mystic back when he was at golden class. He didn't have Lin Yi's jade space, and he didn't have the art of dragon mastery. Once he lost his strength, he'd lose all his advantages, and he'd basically be a cripple. Chapter 35:18. Even if he was Pingliang's follower, the everyday sect couldn't focus all their resources on him now that he was no longer an important figure in the Sky Class Island project. Pingliang stood up and continued sprinting, the dragon of 5 fiends chasing after him. But after a while, Pingliang decided to pull a trick. It was too tiring to keep running like this, and so he pretended to fall to the ground from exhaustion. After he fell, he waited for the dragon of fiends to turn around and attack Kong Ming Ming. Kong Ming Ming paused when he saw Pingliang fall. How did he manage to hold on for so long? But then he realized that Pingliang was playing a trick. He was trying to slack off. Kong Ming Ming was pissed off. Was the dragon of fiends going to attack him again? Why hadn't he thought of this before? But just as Kong Ming Ming was getting angry, he saw that the dragon of fiends didn't turn around to attack him. Instead, it reached out with its claws and grabbed Pingliang, roaring, "Don't play dead." If Kong Ming Ming could see the problem, how could the dragon of fiends not? The dragon of 5 fiends swung its claws, and with a swoosh, Pingliang's upper body was buried in the mud. Pingliang wanted to cry. He was trying to slack off, but he got attacked instead. Startled, he quickly crawled out of the mud and continued to run. He did not want to be hit like that again. Pingliang wanted to curse at the dragon, but he held it in. Cursing the dragon was fun, but his whole family was going to be cremated. Look at Kong Ming Ming. Wasn't that the case? His wife was dead, and he almost died as well. This wasn't something he could just curse at. He had no choice but to run for his life. He knew that the dragon of fiends was messing with him, but he had to run. Time passed quickly, and in the blink of an eye. 3 days passed in the blink of an eye. The 5 evils dragon had lost interest in playing. The inheritors had been in its cave for a long time. If they stayed any longer, they wouldn't be able to hold on any longer. The 5 wrath dragons saw the inheritors coming out of the cave, and gave up on chasing Kong Ming Ming and Pingliang. It hurriedly returned to its cave, disappearing without a second glance as it passed by the inheritors. This caused everyone present to be extremely puzzled. This dragon of 5 evils was truly strange. He actually turned a blind eye to the inheritor's actions of occupying his nest. Kong Ming Ming and Pinliang fell to the ground, panting heavily. It was too tiring. They had been running nonstop for 3 days. It was as if the two of them were fighting against the dragon of 5 evils. But who could they blame? They wanted to harm Lin Yi, and their little tricks incurred the wrath of the dragon of 5 evils. But now it was finally over. Kong Xiaoming looked at the inheritors and stood up. Young Master Tian, I've been waiting for a long time. How are the inheritors on your side? Did they all use the inheritance and successfully break through to perfect perfection? Snow Valley's elder Tang Yun didn't break through to perfect perfection, but the others are fine. Tian Chan felt slightly regretful. Among the inheritors, only Tang Yun failed to break through to perfect perfection. She probably wouldn't be able to try in a short period of time. If she forced herself to try, she might go berserk and cause more damage to her body. So she had to leave this place first. Ah, Tang Yun failed. Kong Ming Ming laughed coldly in his heart. Lin Yi might be strong, but his girlfriends were also trash. He looked at Tian Chan and felt slightly regretful. If he had known that the young master of Sky Silkworm sect was a girl, then he wouldn't have pursued Little Peach at all. Why would he pursue Little 11? As long as he went to lick Tian Chan's boots, maybe Tian Chan would really like him. At that time, he would become the son-in-law of the Sky Elixir sect, and he would still be successful. Although it was not bad now, and he could get the Xianchen ancestors' care. Little 11 was far worse than Tian Chan. Sigh, the past was unbearable. Kong Ming Ming didn't want to stay here any longer. He was afraid that the dragon of 5 evils would return to the cave and come out again. As for whether Tang Yun broke through or not, in Kong Ming Ming's eyes, it didn't matter much anymore. Zhang Naipeo was crippled, and one less inheritor wasn't a big deal. These headaches would be solved by the Xianchen ancestor when he got back. He couldn't solve it. Temporarily failed. I'll think of something when I get back. How's your side? Tian Chan asked faintly. Lin Yi looked at the familiar yellow-clothed girl in front of him. It was hard to connect her with the beautiful girl he met in the 5 Evils Mountains. At that time, Tian Chan was a cute little girl, but now Tian Chan was the cold and arrogant young master of the Sky Elixir sect. But Tang Yun failed to break through to perfection? This surprised Lin Yi, but he could think of something when he got back. On my side, all the participants broke through to perfection under the pressure of the 5 Evils Qi, but Zhang Naipeo was crippled. Kong Ming Ming was a little depressed. Let's go back and see how he can recover. Ah, Tian Chan paused as well. She knew how important Zhang Naipeo was, but she didn't expect him to be crippled as well. This wasn't going to be good. But the most important thing now was to leave this place. And so Tian Chan said, activate the portal. You take the participants out first. I'll bring up the rear and escort the heir. Alright. Kong Ming Ming couldn't wait to leave this place. He was overjoyed to go first. Following the method the Xianchen elder taught him, Kong Ming Ming activated the portal in the 5 Evils Mountains. Then, he took the lead and rushed into the portal, ignoring everyone else. Behind him, Pinliang and Naipeo followed closely, and the rest of the heirs left one by one. Lin Yi let Han Jingjing and Xinyan leave first. He was going to wait for Tian Chan and the heirs to leave before he left. These heirs were his closest people, including Tian Chan. She had a complicated relationship with Lin Yi, and so Lin Yi wanted to escort them out. Mingyao Xiaoxiao, Yushu, Yuning, Guan Xian, and Little Nine all looked at Lin Yi as they left. Only Tang Yin had her head lowered, as if she had a lot on her mind. After these people left with the others from the sect, only Lin Yi and Tian Chan were left. Chapter 35:19. Damn, if you wanted to kill me, you didn't have to help me a few times before. Lin Yi smiled bitterly. Right, what's going on with Tang Yin? Tang Yun, your girlfriend? Tian Chan asked. Aren't you my girlfriend? Lin Yi smiled. Kick you. Tian Chan glared at Lin Yi. Do you think I don't know that those inheritors are all your girlfriends? I didn't say it wasn't. Lin Yi said. I mean, aren't you the same? Don't talk nonsense. Tianchan snorted. Here I'm Tianchan. When I go back, I'm Sky Silkworm transformation. We can't. Tianchan suddenly sighed. Actually, there are some things that are meaningless if they are said out loud. It's fine as long as everyone knows it in their hearts. You're not going to Heaven Island? Linny suddenly asked. N. Tianchan was slightly taken aback. Maybe, but so what if I go? It's not like I won't come back. Linny wanted to say that he should go to Heaven Island to be gay, but he didn't say it after thinking about it. Tianchan obviously had a lot of concerns. She had her identity in life. Even if she went to Heaven Island, it was not like she wouldn't come back. However, how many of those who went to the Heavenly Island came back? It seemed that those who went to Heaven Island were never heard from again, right? However, Linny didn't say anything. Everything could only be left to fate. The two of them left the teleportation portal one after another. But it didn't attract much attention, because Patriarch Xianxin was dumbfounded at this moment. He listened to Kong Mingming's narration and almost fainted. Father-in-law. Master, you must hold on. Kong Mingming was about to faint when he saw Patriarch Xianxin. He was shocked. Patriarch Xianxin had been guarding near the teleportation portal, so he naturally didn't know that little 11th soul jade tablet had shattered. Why yeah. Linny, he and I are irreconcilable. Patriarch Xianxin roared in grief and indignation. Almost all of his disciples had died in the hands of Lin Yi. This hatred was absolutely irreconcilable. Fortunately, Kong Mingming was not dead. He had really gone mad. Fortunately, you're fine. If something had happened to you, I would have really gone all out against Lin Yi. But now those inheritors are all related to him. Even if I kill him, I can't shed all pretense of cordiality. Patriarch Xianxin was a formidable figure after all. He quickly regained his composure. As the head of the Five Elements sect, he still kept the tradition of the old days. His daughter was just a woman, and it didn't matter if she died. However, Kong Mingming was his last disciple, and he was so mean. This was very much to his liking. He had already prepared for Kong Mingming to inherit his mantle. He wanted Kong Mingming to inherit the position of the head of the Five Elements sect, or to carry forward the Five Elements sect after going to the Heaven Stage Island. The patriarchal thought, and the idea of inheriting the mantle. This made Patriarch Xianxin value Kong Mingming, his only personal disciple, even more. Therefore, Kong Mingming was fine. The balance between him and Lin Yi would not be broken. And Lin Yi also saw this clearly, so he spared Kong Mingming's life. I understand. I can't do it now, but Master, don't worry. Even if I go to the Heaven Stage Island, I will find a way to kill him. Kong Mingming grinned hideously. Well, I know what you're capable of. Patriarch Xianxin nodded. You don't have to worry about anything when little 11 goes. After going to the Heaven Stage Island, if possible, find a way to get close to a dock. It would be great if you can get married. As long as you can carry forward the Five Elements sect of my Xianxin branch, it doesn't matter what you do. Father-in-law, aren't you going to the Heaven Stage Island? Even if I go to the Heaven Stage Island, you are my backer. Kong Mingming said. The Heaven Stage Island. You and I may not be together. Moreover, why are we going to the Heaven Stage Island? Isn't it to pursue the way of heaven and cultivate to become a perfected immortal? Our strength is at the full circle of the Heaven Stage, and there is a big gap between us and the way of heaven. The people there may be stronger than us. Patriarch Xianxin seemed to know something. Father-in-law, you seem to know about the Heaven Stage Island all of a sudden? Kong Mingming raised his head and asked curiously. Before, the Xianxin ancestor didn't know much about the Heaven Stage Island, so he didn't say much to Kong Mingming. But from what he said today, it seemed like he knew something new. That's right, I know something, but it's not the right time to tell you yet. Patriarch Xianxin said. When the Heaven Stage Conference is held, I will announce it to everyone. That's good. Kong Mingming nodded and didn't ask any more questions. Right, those who went with you, did they all successfully advance to the full circle? Patriarch Xianxin asked. They all advanced. The pressure of the five evils chi, there's really nothing to hide. It's too powerful. Kong Mingming nodded. In fact, he admired Zhong Pingyang the most. He could actually advance and break through while resting. But thinking about it, it was normal. After his physical strength was exhausted, and then under the pressure of the 5 malice chi, it was hard not to break through. But Zhang Naipeo is crippled. Although he can cultivate back, I'm afraid it won't be possible for a while. Didn't you say that Wang Xinyan can be replaced? Let's talk to Lin Yi. It should be enough. Patriarch Xianxin said. This is also the reason why I don't want to fall out with Lin Yi. And Wang Xinyan can be replaced. Kong Mingming nodded. Right among the inheritors, Tang Yin failed to advance. She's not a full circle yet. Failed? Patriarch Xianxin frowned after hearing this. He was a little unhappy. Only Shuegu's arts are troublesome. The other sects are quite normal. Only they came up with this heartless arts. It's really fucked up. Yeah, why don't we give her a chi gathering pill in advance? Kong Mingming asked. Recently, he was addicted to making chi gathering pills. Practice makes perfect, so the success rate was very high. No, there's a problem with Shuegu's arts. The chi gathering pill can only be used until the peak of heaven stage late phase. It doesn't work anymore. You can only cultivate by yourself. Patriarch Xianxin shook his head. You don't have to worry about it. I'll force them to think of a way as soon as possible. Okay. Kong Mingming nodded. Right, in this trial, are there any other participants who have a good relationship with Lin Yi? Patriarch Xianxin asked. No, it's that Xiao Ran. He seems to be a little hot-blooded, but it has nothing to do with Lin Yi. Kong Mingming said. That's good. I'm afraid that Lin Yi will form a gang. At the heaven stage meeting, I will give him the most painful blow. As long as there aren't too many people supporting him, Patriarch Xianxin said with a cold smile. Chapter 35:20. Patriarch Black Earth coughed and strode over. As for Kong Zhaoming, he followed closely behind. I heard that the performance of the trial challengers was very good, and the performance of the inheritors was also very good. However, there was a trial challenger who took the initiative to provoke others, and was crippled and criticized. There's also an inheritor who failed to ascend to the great perfection realm, and was also criticized. The elder said faintly, Zhang Naipeo, if you can't recover your chi and strength by the time of the sky class meeting, then the everyday and everyday sect will be disqualified from this trial, and Wang Xinyan will replace you. What? Pinliang was shocked. Elder Xianxin, what do you mean? Our everyday and everyday sect is also one of the initiators of the Sky Class Island plan. What are you trying to do by kicking us out? I didn't say I was kicking you out. But if you can't recover, then there's nothing I can do. If you recover, then everything will be fine. The elder said. Pinliang took a deep breath. He was very angry, but the elder's words were reasonable. Who told Zhang Naipeo to be crippled? Tang Yun. If you can't break through to Sky Class perfection by the time of the Sky Class meeting, then Shueyu's right to participate and enter Sky Class Island will be disqualified. The elder continued. Tang Yun's position will be replaced by Ice Palace's Bingtang. Both of them are water elements. Although they're not exactly the same, they can still be used. At least, perfection will be stronger than non-perfection. Shueli's expression did not look too good either. This time, she came with dreams and pursuits. If Shueyu couldn't participate, then she could only return depressed. However, Tang Yun still had hope. After all, it wasn't the end of the trial before the Sky Class meeting. After saying that, the Black Earth Patriarch said slowly, apart from the people I mentioned, everyone has obtained the right to participate in the Heaven Grade meeting. But before that, everyone has obtained the right to participate. But before that, I will give everyone a holiday. If there's anything, go deal with it as soon as possible. Then, I will make an ancient announcement and summon everyone back for the Sky Class meeting. Zhang Naipeo, Tang Yun, this is your last chance. I hope you can grasp it. Don't let me down. Alright, everyone can disperse. Kong Mingming walked over and said to everyone. However, those who are free can also stay in the 5 Elements Inn and wait for the news of the Heaven Rank meeting. The crowd dispersed. Lin Yi looked in the direction of the inheritor. He was a little worried about Tang Yun. Before he couldn't remember Tang Yun, but now he remembered. Lin Yi wouldn't turn a blind eye to it. Tang Yun hadn't broken through to full mastery. Lin Yi had to think of a way for her. However, before Lin Yi could walk over, Sydney blocked Lin Yi's path. Young hero Lin, what are you doing? Please respect yourself, and do what you promised me. Don't go back on your words. Tang Yun hasn't broken through to Sky Realm Great Circle yet. She can't acknowledge you yet. You misunderstood. Lin Yi shook his head and said, I don't want to acknowledge her or anything. I just want to see if there's anything I can help with. You know that I'm a Sky Realm Great Circle Master. And so are the people around me. In terms of breaking through to full mastery, I have some experience. So we can discuss together, and see if we can solve Tang Yun's problem. I see. Sydney hesitated after hearing Lin Yi's words. To be honest, she was a little tempted. After all, what Lin Yi said was the truth. He and the others were all Sky Realm Great Circle Masters. And they had a lot of experience in breaking through. And Lin Yi had come all the way from a lone practitioner to his current height. It was impossible to say that he didn't have some ability. So Sydney hesitated and said, I'll go back and think about it. You won't leave the inn for the time being, right? I won't leave. Lin Yi nodded. After he went back, he planned to first forge a Sky Realm Divine Weapon. Then, he would go to the West Star Mountain Cave and open the stone door to see if there was anything good inside. However, the prerequisite was to forge a Sky Realm Divine Weapon. And now that Lin Yi had the blood of the 5 demons dragon, everything was ready. He only needed to make a move. It didn't matter where he forged it. There was no one else in Lin Yi's house except for Han Jingjing and Wang Xinyan. So Lin Yi planned to stay in the inn for now. Okay. Sydney left and walked towards Tang Yun. Although Tang Yun really wanted to see Lin Yi, she resisted. When she was receiving the inheritance and resisting the pressure, Tang Yun tried very hard to forget about Lin Yi. But she still couldn't break through to the Sky Realm Great Circle. This made Tang Yun feel very regretful. To be honest, Tang Yun felt very guilty today. She was the hope of the Snow Valley and Sydney's hope. If she couldn't successfully break through, then Sydney would have no chance with the Sky Realm Conference and the Sky Realm Island plan. After Sydney left, the other inheritors also walked far away. Lin Yi wanted to talk to them, but this didn't seem to be the place. He should wait until they returned to the inn. Lin Yi, Wang Xinyan, and Han Jingjing returned to the inn together. Not long after, there was a knock on the door. At first, Lin Yi thought it was Sydney. He didn't expect her to think it through so quickly. When he opened the door, it was Zhong Pingliang and Zhang Naipeo. This surprised Lin Yi. Why were the two of them here? What do you mean? Are you here for revenge? Lin Yi looked at the two coldly and asked. That. Master Lin, can you let us in? I have something to discuss with you. Zhong Pingliang sighed. Pingliang said after a sigh. To be honest, begging Lin Yi wasn't his style, but there was no other way. This was the only thing he could do. You guys? You have something to discuss with me? Lin Yi looked at Zhong Pingliang strangely. I say, Zhong Pingliang, are you okay? Do you think we're still in school? Do we have any friendship to speak of? No matter what, our relationship was harmonious for a while. And I really have something to discuss with you today. Zhong Pingliang sighed. Say it, what is it? Lin Yi nodded and let the two into the room. Master Lin, I heard that you're quite good at healing and leveling people up. Could you help Naipeo recover? Pingliang asked after some hesitation. That's right, Master Lin. I heard that you're quite good at healing and leveling people up. Chapter 35-21. Helping Zhang Naipeo heal? How could he even think of that? No, young hero Lin, listen to me. Pingliang said. According to my understanding, other than the power of the 5 elements and 7 elements, there's also the presence of the 5 malice chi. Zhang Naipeo's mission is to protect the inheritors and help them absorb the extra demonic chi. It's a very dangerous job, and there's a high chance of accidents. And now, the Xianqian elder wants Xinyan to help absorb it and take over Naipeo's position. But do you really want someone with no experience to do this? I know what's going on with Xinyan. It's probably you who's helping her, right? Oh. Lin Yi was a little tempted by Pingliang's words. Pingliang was right. If it were Xinyan, Linny wouldn't be at ease. Those inheritors had gone through the formal training of the sect. They had some experience. But Xinyan was different. She'd been forcefully strengthened by him, and had no battle experience at all. It wouldn't be good if something happened to her. But it was impossible for Lin Yi to use the art of dragon mastery on Naipeo. 1. Lin Yi didn't dare focus all his attention on strengthening an enemy, and 2. Lin Yi didn't want him to know the secret of his practitioner's arts. And so Lin Yi nodded slowly. What you say makes sense, but it doesn't make sense at all. What do I get out of it? This is a fair trade. If you don't agree, then there's nothing I can do, Pinliang said. This is our chance and yours as well. All right, I admit that I've been convinced by your suggestion. Lin Yi didn't want Xinyan to take the risk, and so he turned around and reached into his luggage. 50 energy stones appeared in his hand, and Lin Yi put them on the coffee table in the room. Let Naipeo take these energy stones back to train. With the help of the energy stones, with his cultivation speed, it should be easy for him to reach the mystic rank. Once he reaches the mystic rank, he can use the wasp absorption divine art to quickly absorb the energy from the energy stones. Even reaching the heaven rank great circle won't be a problem. Pinliang and Naipeo were dumbfounded by the amount of energy stones Lin Yi had pulled out. This Lin Yi always carried energy stones with him. Why did he bring so many? However, regardless of why Lin Yi had energy stones with him, the main problem had been solved. With these energy stones, it wouldn't be hard for Naipeo to break through to Sky Class full mastery again. Even if these energy stones weren't enough, Naipeo was at Sky Class. Then, he would be able to absorb other people's physical strength and true chi at will. When the time came, he would find a disciple of the everyday sect to absorb first. At that thought, Pinliang and Naipeo looked at each other, calming down. Well, I'll take it then. Pinliang hesitated for a moment before taking the energy stone. Don't be an idiot, playing with that idiot Kong Ming Ming. Didn't you see how little 11 died? Lin Yi looked at Pinliang. Don't cause any trouble before Sky Class Island opens. Or don't blame me for not warning you. Don't worry, Master Lin, I know what to do. Pinliang took a deep breath. I can't thank you enough. Bring the stones back when you're done, Lin Yi reminded. Oh, okay. Pinliang didn't know what Lin Yi was going to do with the stones, but he still nodded. Pinliang and Naipeo had achieved their goal. So naturally, they turned and left. Pinliang and Naipeo left after accomplishing their goal. They knew that Lin Yi didn't really like them, and so they didn't plan on staying. After Pinliang left, Lin Yi frowned. Lin Yi frowned slightly. Helping Pinliang wasn't just for Xinyan's sake, but for the sake of the everyday sect. It was a good thing no matter what. The Xiantian ancestor was covering the sky with one hand, letting Pinliang, who owed him a favor, participate. If Xiantian was up to no good when they got to Sky Class Island, Pinliang could help at the critical moment. Not long after Pinliang left, someone knocked on Lin Yi's door again. Lin Yi opened the door and saw that it was Sydney. It seemed like she didn't have a good way to help Tang Yun break through, so she came to find Lin Yi. Master Lin, I've thought about it, and what you said makes sense. So, I want to invite you to the meeting room to discuss Elder Tang Yun's problem. The inheritors and young Master Tian Chan will also go with you. Let's brainstorm and think of a way to help Elder Tang Yun, Sydney said. Okay, when? Lin Yi asked. Now, Sydney said. Okay, I'll go with you. Lin Yi nodded and left the room with Wang Xinyan and Han Jingjing, following Sydney to the inn's meeting room. The meeting room was rented by Sydney from the inn. She said that it was to discuss Tang Yun's problem, so the inn naturally agreed. When Lin Yi and Sydney arrived at the meeting room, they found that the other inheritors and Tian Chan were already there. Tang Yun was also among them, and Lin Yi was the last to arrive. Obviously, Sydney called everyone but not Lin Yi. She was afraid that they couldn't come up with a solution, so she called Lin Yi. However, Lin Yi didn't point it out. After all, Lin Yi understood Sydney's worries. Tang Yun was the hope of Snow Valley, and she was also afraid that Lin Yi and Tang Yun would rekindle their old feelings. Yao Yao Shu Xiaoning Xiao Xiao Xin Xin Xiaojiu. Yun Yun and Tian Chan, long time no see. Lin Yi took a deep breath and sat on the main seat in the meeting room. Wang Xinyan, and Han Jingjing also greeted everyone with a smile and found a place to sit. "Hey, that's my seat." Sydney pointed at the main seat in the meeting room and said to Lin Yi. She was the initiator of the meeting, so naturally she sat on the main seat, but now it was occupied by Lin Yi, and Lin Yi ignored her. It was impossible that Lin Yi didn't have any opinions about Sydney, so he had to ignore her. Everyone's worried about Yun Yun, but Yun Yun hasn't broken through under the pressure of the 5 demons dragon's cave. I think she'll either use the chi amassing pill to break through to the Great Perfection realm, or she'll break through in battle. If both don't work, I'm afraid we'll have to find the reason from her own mental cultivation method. Could it be that she can't cultivate the heartless formula to the Great Perfection realm? Do you want to practice an invitation art? Lin Yi asked. Chapter 35-22. Merciless arts can't be broken through with pills? Lin Yi paused. He didn't think that the arts had this restriction, but every sect's arts were different, and his art of dragon mastery had other uses. So Lin Yi wasn't too surprised. He just nodded and said, "Then the only way is to break through in battle, or to find the problem with the chant. Since your heartless arts can't break through with the pill, it might not be able to break through with normal practice either. In the end, it might be because of your chant. Your arts are the ones that have problems." Sydney raged. "Please don't insult the merciless arts that our Master Shui created." Lin Yi was speechless. Your Master Shui had eloped with Zhang Liju. What was this about the merciless arts? It was more like asking for the arts. But Lin Yi didn't say it out loud. Sydney would probably go crazy if he did. Then try to break through in battle. Yin Yin doesn't have much battle experience, and it's just against the pressure. There's a chance of failure. "But where's the chance to fight?" Sydney said. "Why don't you fight with her?" Lin Yi smiled bitterly. Unless it was a life and death battle, there was only a chance of breaking through in battle. Normal sparring was hard to break through. As they were talking, Xiaoxiao's phone rang. Bingtang had allowed her to use her satellite phone. They were both Lin Yi's wives, so Bingtang wouldn't make things difficult for her. "Dad." It was Xiaoxiao's father, Tianlong. "I'm in a meeting. I'll call you later, okay?" Xiaoxiao thought it was her father asking when she was going back. Before the test, Xiaoxiao had promised her father that she would go home after the test to see her mother. She wanted to see if she could use the body of inheritance to absorb the cold energy in her mother's body and drive it away. But she wasn't done yet, so she had to ask her father to wait. "Xiaoxiao, Dad's in trouble. Did you get together with Lin Yi after what happened to Dad? I can't get through to him. Can you give him the phone?" Tianlong's voice sounded very weak. Xiaoxiao was shocked. "Dad, what's wrong? What happened?" "Dad and your sister Song were heavily injured. Hurry and give the phone to Lin Yi," Feng Tianlong said anxiously. All right. Xiaoxiao quickly stood up and passed the phone to Lin Yi. "Lin Yi, honey, my dad's in trouble. Take the call." "Oh, did something happen to Uncle Feng?" Lin Yi was also shocked. He quickly took the phone and said, "Uncle Feng, what happened to you?" "Lin Yi, I can't get through to you? Lingshan and I were heavily injured," Feng Tianlong said. "Phone? My phone is not a satellite phone. There is no signal here." Lin Yi said, "Seriously injured? So who did it?" Lin Yi was shocked. There were still people who dared to seriously injure someone from the Supernatural Investigation Bureau? Who did it? Who dared to do it? Did they not know about the news? Didn't they know about his relationship with the Bureau? Moreover, Tianlong and Lingshan were the closest people to Lin Yi. How could they seriously injure them? This was obviously not giving face to Lin Yi. Iron Cloak Sect. Tianlong said. The Supernatural Investigation Bureau was tracking a martial artist who did evil in the mortal world. However, this martial artist seemed to be an outer disciple of the Iron Cloak Sect. He actually ran to the Iron Cloak Sect, Lingshan, and I naturally brought people to the Iron Cloak Sect to get him. Initially, he had wanted to negotiate with them and have them release the captives. But who knew that the Iron Cloak Sect would be so unreasonable? A few people came out and surrounded us. "Oh, Iron Cloak Sect?" Lin Yi frowned. The Iron Cloak Sect rarely participated in activities. Firstly, physical masters rarely pursued the heavenly Tao. Only one person from the Holy Fist Palace came, probably with the attitude of giving it a try. The other physical masters didn't come. Perhaps physical practitioners and chi practitioners were different. But the Iron Cloak sect, Golden Bell sect, and Eastern Sea's Jin family should have some relationship. Lenny didn't expect the Iron Cloak sect to be so daring. They actually dared to attack people from the Supernatural Investigation Bureau. Did you say that Feng Xiaoxiao is your daughter? I did. And Lingshan also said that you are her boyfriend. But the Iron Cloak sect said that they never heard of Feng Xiaoxiao. But they heard of your name. They said that you are their enemy in name. So they wanted to teach us a lesson. Feng Tianlong said helplessly. So 2 sky-class masters came out and seriously injured Lingshan and I. Not only that, they also warned us that we dared to come to the Iron Cloak sect to get her back. They told us to go home and prepare for our funeral. They will come to us 3 days later and kill our whole family. Kill our whole family? After listening to Feng Tianlong's words, Lenny didn't know what to say. Was the Iron Cloak sect arrogant to a certain extent? Even if they didn't know the news, they couldn't be so arrogant, could they? That's right, Lingshan and I are now crippled. But I'm not worried that you can heal yourself. I'm alone, I'm fine. But I'm afraid that it will affect the secular Song family. Feng Tianlong said. Uncle Feng, wait for us, we will go immediately. We were just worried about not having a chance to fight. And now the chance is here. Since they wanted to kill Lenny naturally didn't mind killing them first. Whether it was Lingshan's whole family or Feng Tianlong's, it all included Lenny. How could Lenny just sit back and do nothing? Alright, don't be rash. I'll wait for you. We'll talk when you come back, Feng Tianlong said. After hanging up, Lenny handed the phone back to Xiao Xiao. He didn't hide anything, since other than Sydney, everyone here was Lin Yi's closest people. And so, Lenny told them about what happened to Tianlong and Lingshan. Oh, annihilation. Shu loves it. Yushu agreed as soon as Lenny finished. Tang Yun sis, let's go fight the Iron Cloak sect. I haven't annihilated anyone yet. Tang Yun didn't know whether to laugh or cry. Was annihilating an entire family something fun in Yushu's eyes? Yes, Lenny honey. Since that Iron Cloak sect wants to annihilate us, then we'll go and annihilate them. The troublemaker duo has reunited. I'm so excited. Xiao Xiao knew that Lenny could heal her father and Lingshan, so she wasn't worried about their safety. She was more excited about annihilating a whole family. Chapter 35-23. He thought that he could smoothly prepare to go to Heavenly Island in this period of time. But he didn't expect to encounter such a thing before he left. Let's go take a look first. Lenny thought for a moment. He was going to Heavenly Island, and it might be a few months, a year or two at most. He didn't know how long it would take, but during this time, there were still a lot of his friends and family left in the common world. At that time, if anyone came looking for trouble, Lenny wouldn't be able to help. So it was important to establish his authority before he left. Otherwise, if another ancient sect that he didn't have much contact with before came, or if another ancient sect that didn't know him came looking for trouble, it would be hard to say what would happen. We'll leave tomorrow morning. This is a good chance for Yin Yin to fight, Lenny said after some thought. Okay, I'll go too, Sydney said after some thought. Up to you, but you have to be a fighter. Otherwise don't go, Lenny smiled. Alright. Shweli hesitated for a moment before agreeing. People from ancient sects didn't care much about human lives. As long as there was a grudge, they could go to the front door. So, Sydney went with them. She thought about it. Didn't Xiao Xiao's whole family include Tang Yin? If it was related to Lin Yi, then it would be related to Tang Yun. Then it would be Shuagu's business. Then Sydney would be defending herself. I'll go with you guys, Tian Chan said after some thought. You're going too? Lenny paused. It was reasonable for other people to go, because they were Xiao Xiao's sisters. It was normal for them to go looking for trouble with the Iron Cloak sect. But under what name would Tian Chan go? If she went with the identity of the young master of the Sky Elixir sect, it would be too big of a deal. After the Iron Cloak sect was destroyed, it would be a bad name for the Sky Elixir sect. Yes. My mission is to protect these inheritors. If I don't go, Patriarch Xianxin will say that I'm not doing my job well. Tianchan said matter-of-factly. Linny, do you have time? Come to my room later. I have something to discuss with you. Oh, okay. Linny was a little surprised. He didn't expect that Tianchan would take the initiative to invite him. However, Linny knew that Tianchan didn't just have something to discuss with him. Linny didn't think that he had anything to discuss with Tianchan. They decided on the itinerary for tomorrow. Everyone went back to rest as well, since Xueli and Tianchan were there. Mengyao only looked at Lin Yi, pursed her lips, and left without saying anything. Guan Xi and Little Jiao and Yuning did the same. Shu took Xiaoxiao's hand and left with the Mississippi. Tang Yun was the last to leave. She left with Sydney. Looking at Lin Yi, she wanted to say something but stopped. She knew that Lin Yi must have remembered what happened before. But because Sydney was there, she couldn't say anything to Lin Yi. Finally, when everyone left, only Tianchan, Wang Xinyan, and Han Jingjing were left in the meeting room. Lin Yi said to Wang Xinyan and Han Jingjing, "You two go back first. I'll go to Tianchan's place. I'll go back in a while. And I want to go find Yao Yao." Wang Xinyan said, "I haven't seen her for a long time. I'll go with her." Okay. Lin Yi nodded. Wang Xinyan, Han Jingjing, and Meng Yao were very familiar with each other. In the last few days, they were together almost every day. After they left, only Lin Yi and Tianchan were left in the meeting room. "Why are you looking for me?" Lin Yi smiled at Tianchan. "I want to kick you, can't I?" Tianchan rolled her eyes at Lin Yi. "Let me kick you." "Where?" Lin Yi asked. "What do you think?" Tianchan smiled faintly. "I'll let you die without descendants. Who asked you to be so popular with women?" Sweat. Lin Yi was speechless. "I can heal myself. I can't be bothered with you." Tianchan walked out of the meeting room and said to Lin Yi, "Follow me." Lin Yi quickly followed and came to Tianchan's room in the inn. It was a very luxurious suite, much better than Lin Yi's suite. It seemed that Tianchan's treatment was really different. "Your room is really good. You want to move here?" Tianchan asked. "Sleep with you?" Lin Yi asked. "It's not like we haven't slept together before," Tianchan said. "How would I not know what you're thinking? You're so dirty." "How is it dirty? It's your thoughts that are dirty, isn't it?" Lin Yi was speechless after being mocked by Tianchan a few times. "I heard that you can make a lot of qi-gathering pills?" Tianchan asked. "Yes," Lin Yi nodded. "Then, I'll make some for my brother. When he reaches Heaven Class Full Circle, I can go to Heaven Class Island in peace. Even if I don't come back, it's fine." Tianchan said. "Huh? What do you mean?" Lin Yi was slightly surprised. Although Tianchan didn't make a clear statement, her attitude said something. "We'll talk about it when the time comes." Tianchan shook her head. "I haven't thought about it yet. You know that I used to be a sky silkworm transformation. I'm very strong. I'm afraid that I won't be able to control myself and kill them." Lin Yi didn't know whether to laugh or cry. "We're both Heaven Class Full Circle. It's not that easy to kill them. Do you think you're me? Maybe I'll reach Heaven's path first?" Tianchan said. "All right." Lin Yi shrugged. "Let's not talk about that for now. You came looking for me just for this?" "Yes," Tianchan nodded. "Then I'll go back first." Lin Yi was in a hurry to go back and make Heaven-class weapons. He had all the materials, so he could start working. Also, Tianchan stopped Lin Yi. "What?" Lin Yi looked at Tianchan. "Hug me." "I haven't hugged for a long time," Tianchan said suddenly. "Ah. Okay." Since Tianchan said so, Lin Yi naturally wouldn't be polite. Perhaps Tianchan had gone to the Five Fiends mountain range again and was touched by the scenery. That was why she had so many thoughts and made such a decision. Lin Yi hugged Tianchan lightly. He didn't take advantage of her, just like he did in Wushang Mountain. In fact, the current situation was already taking advantage of Tianchan. After a while, Tianchan pushed Lin Yi away. "Okay, you can go back. I'm fine. Let me be alone." "Okay." Lin Yi nodded. "Don't tell others about our relationship. Do you understand?" Tianchan glared at Lin Yi. Otherwise, I'll kick you. Chapter 35-24. Linny bid farewell to Tian Chan and returned to his room. On his way back, he ran into Kong Ming Ming. However, Kong Ming Ming took one look at Lin Yi and knew that he was no match for Lin Yi. He lowered his head and walked away without saying anything. Lin Yi didn't bother with him and quickly returned to his room, starting his research on the forging of the divine weapon. Back in his room, Lin Yi entered the inner room and took out the forging technique of heaven-level divine weapons that he had copied from the space in the jade pendant and began to study it. According to the book, to forge a heaven-level divine weapon exclusive to the art of dragon mastery, the following materials were needed: fine steel, dark iron, colored steel, black charcoal stone, pure topaz, blue crystal powder, and blood of the pentadragon. Although there were many materials, much more than the jade pendant and the essence chi necklace. However, apart from the blood of the pentadragon, Lin Yi had already collected the rest of the materials a while ago. During the last few days of refining the chi-gathering pill, Lin Yi also plundered some of the materials from the ancient sects and hidden families. Now he had more than enough materials for each type of material. Therefore, it was more than enough for Lin Yi to start forging weapons now. However, what made Lin Yi depressed was that he had obtained the blood of the pentadragon too late. If he had forged a divine weapon earlier, Lin Yi would have been able to use it when he was in the heaven rank. Right now, he was about to advance to the heavenly Dao realm. Above the heavenly Dao realm, would he still be able to use heaven-ranked divine weapons? Would they be able to unleash such great might after using them? These were all unknown. However, in order to open the stone door of the Xinyuan cave mansion, Lin Yi had to forge. This was also a test for him. Now that he had all the materials, Lin Yi continued to read the later parts of the art of dragon mastery. It turned out that the divine weapon needed to be paired with the art of dragon mastery was a staff. It needed a cylindrical steel and dark steel as a carrier, just like how the essence chi necklace needed a jade pendant as a carrier. Fine steel or dark steel. Lin Yi couldn't help but think of the fine steel dark steel rod. And this was a gift from Zhong Pingliang. This guy always gave him good stuff. Thinking about it, it was good to keep someone like him around. Maybe he'd be useful in the future. Now that he had the materials, Lin Yi began to figure out the refining method, the smithing fire. After the previous two experiments, Lin Yi could already master it very well, so there was no problem. Next, it was time for actual combat. After Lin Yi carefully looked at the forging steps of the heaven-rank god weapon a few times, he carefully placed a certain proportion of dark mysterious iron, colored steel, charcoal stone, pure topaz, blue crystal powder and blood of the five evils dragon around the dark iron rod. After that, he officially started to forge his heaven-rank god weapon. The first step was to condense the smithing fire. The subsequent steps were actually very similar to condensing the space in the jade pendant and the essence chi necklace. With the previous two experiences, the condensation process was very smooth. Lin Yi's hands kept condensing the smithing fire, and from time to time, he also needed to use his hands to change the shape of the supporting materials. Then he fused it with the dark iron rod on the ground. One after another, the whole process was very smooth. After a period of time, he finally reached the most important step of forging this weapon. This step was the most crucial step. It was also the step where Lin Yi had the least materials. Lin Yi basically had the backup of the materials he condensed before. But the last step, that was to inject the blood of the five evils dragon. This step was also completely different from the previous two steps, because the blood of the five evils dragon was the most important material used to change the attribute of a heaven-rank god weapon. Everyone knew that a heaven-rank god weapon had an attribute, and only the practitioner of the corresponding attribute could use it to its greatest effect. Back in the market, the wandering practitioner collected materials from the corresponding attribute of a heaven-rank spirit beast to change the attribute of the heaven-rank god weapon. Lin Yi was a practitioner of the 5 elements and 7 attributes, and among the spirit beasts, only the 5 evils dragon belonged to the 5 elements. Lin Yi's heaven-rank god weapon should be corresponding to the 5 elements. So the last step was to use the blood of the 5 evils dragon to determine the attribute of the heaven-rank god weapon. At this step, Lenny was pleasantly surprised. He had only used less than 5 hours. He heard Xinyan and Han Jingjing enter the door, but they saw that Lenny was busy with something, so they didn't disturb him and went to rest. Lenny took a deep breath. The next step was to infuse the 5 evils dragon's blood into the rod, and this step was the most difficult. It wasn't as simple as sprinkling the blood on the rod, but he had to let the blood seep evenly into the rod. If there was a slight deviation, it could cause a flaw in the weapon, and if he infused it with pure qi, it could cause the weapon to explode or break. Of course, Lenny wasn't in a rush. He followed the steps step by step, careful with every step. It was a good thing that the heavens didn't disappoint those who tried. Finally, the next morning, Lenny completed the last and most difficult step. Lenny looked at the rod in front of him. It had obviously become darker, and he felt a little strange. This thing was black like a fire stick. It didn't look like anything good, but it was low-key and luxurious. Of course, Lenny looked at the rod in his hand. It didn't look too different from before. Other than being a little darker, it didn't look any different. But Lenny didn't care. It was a weapon for battle, and it wasn't for showing off. What did it matter if it looked good or not? After resting for a while, Lenny began to infuse pure qi into the rod. The rod let out a buzzing sound, and on the surface of the rod, a layer of dazzling pure qi suddenly flashed. At this moment, the black and swarthy iron rod suddenly became high-end and classy. However, Lenny only infused pure qi to test it. Lenny didn't dare to use it in the inn. Although the inn looked solid, how could it withstand a full blow from a consummate expert with a weapon? It would be smashed into ruins. Chapter 35-25. Lenny was the true heir of the 5 Elements sect. After doing all this, Lenny put away his staff and left the room. Xinyan and Han Jingjing were already awake and washing up, evidently looking forward to the upcoming battle. Lenny washed up and brought Xinyan and Han Jingjing downstairs to the inn. Tian Chan was already waiting at the door with Ming Yao, Yushu Little Nine, Yuning, Guan Xian, Xiao Xiao, Tang Yin and Sydney. Practitioners usually woke up early, and Lenny would have come down earlier if he hadn't been busy forging his sky-class weapon. But what surprised Lin Yi was that not long after he came down, Pinliang and Naipeo came down as well, evidently preparing to leave. "Thank you, young hero Lin." Pinliang cupped his fist at Lin Yi and got into the car. Kong Mingming's heart skipped a beat when he saw Pinliang's action. He was also not far away, and he quickly ran towards Pinliang's car. But Pinliang's car had already started, and with a bang, it knocked into Kong Mingming, making him sit on the ground, looking very disheveled. If this was any other time, Kong Mingming would have been furious, but now he had to confirm the relationship between Lin Yi and Pinliang. Why did Pinliang suddenly become so close to Lin Yi, even greeting him before leaving? Wasn't this something only done to friends who respected each other a lot? "Kong Mingming, what's wrong with you? Do you want to die?" Pinliang cursed as he stopped the car and rolled down the window. "Huh? Liang bro, wait for me. I have something to talk to you about." Kong Mingming opened the back door and sat in the car. He was also a Heaven Stage Great Perfection expert. Although he was an alchemist, he would naturally be fine if he was hit by a car. "What do you want?" Pinliang said impatiently. Isn't Canon crippled now? I can help." At that time, Patriarch Xianxian, my master, was there, so I couldn't say much. But it was my idea to deal with Han Jingjing and Wang Xinyan. And it's my fault that Canon got sucked out by Wang Xinyan. I want to do what I can. Kong Mingming said. "Oh." Pinliang froze. What did that mean? Why did he suddenly say this to me? But Naipeo was pretty much healed already, and he was planning on finding a disciple to absorb some strength from the everyday sect. But first, Kong Mingming could do whatever he wanted. "How are you going to help me?" "I can refine qi gathering pills. Don't forget that I'm an alchemist." Kong Mingming said. "Oh, alright, if you can refine qi gathering pills, then I'll accept your offer." Pinliang's eyes lit up. If he had the pill, Then Naipeo wouldn't need to absorb other people's strength. Chi-gathering pills might be a bottleneck for other practitioners, but for Naipeo, it was a bottleneck. That bottleneck would be gone. His wasp absorption arts was at an advanced mastery level, and he could absorb anything. Naturally, there was no longer a limit to breaking through. Naipeo didn't rely on Qi to level up anymore, but absorbed other types of Qi instead. The side effects of the pill wouldn't exist anymore. No problem. Kong Mingming said before turning to Pinliang. Right, Liang bro. What did you say to Linny just now? Aren't you and him sworn enemies? Oh, Linny gave us some energy stones, and Pao Zi's back to golden class mid-phase now. He'll probably reach mystic soon, and then he'll be able to use wasp absorption arts. So, you need to get your Qi gathering pills as soon as possible. Pinliang was a schemer as well. He said that to get Kong Mingming to do his best to make the pill faster, he could let Naipeo absorb other people's Qi when he got back to the sect. But how much would he have to absorb? Even if he absorbed 2 or 3 perfected masters, he might not be able to make Naipeo reach perfection. Plus, how many perfected masters did the everyday and everyday sect have? Would Pinliang give himself up for Naipeo to absorb? That was impossible. It would be good enough if he could find a couple of sky class, but it would still be hard for Naipeo to break through. But a bunch of Qi gathering pills would be fine. Oh, energy stones. Qi gathering pills are better than that. You know that leveling up with energy stones is too slow. Plus, this Lin Yi is giving you good stuff, and he's trying to please you for no reason. You two aren't the same kind of people. Don't be fooled by his lies. Think about how you lost your kidney. Kong Mingming said. Yes, that's true. I'll wait for your good news then. Pinliang nodded. Haha, no problem. You have to stand on my side during the Sky class meeting. This was Kong Mingming's true goal. He was afraid that Pinliang would stand on Lin Yi's side. Of course, Lin Yi and I are enemies. I owe him a favor, and I won't do anything to him myself, but I can't stand on his side either. Pinliang said. This was his bottom line. He and Lin Yi were enemies, and he couldn't stand on Lin Yi's side just because of something like this. He'd made it clear to Lin Yi that this was just a deal. Naipeo would take the 5 malice demonic Qi for Xinyan, and Xinyan wouldn't be in danger then. Lin Yi gave him the energy stones because of this, so Pinliang didn't feel like he owed Lin Yi too much. At most, he'd take the initiative to go against Lin Yi before Sky Class Island. But if Kong Mingming went against Lin Yi, he wouldn't stand on Lin Yi's side to stop him. This was what Kong Mingming wanted. As long as Pinliang and Lin Yi weren't on the same side, then there wouldn't be a problem. Lin Yi would be alone at the Sky Class meeting. Wouldn't that be a tragedy? Haha, just thinking about it made him happy. Yesterday, Elder Xianxian had already told Kong Mingming about the plan for the Sky Class meeting. Kong Ming was overjoyed after hearing it. If Lin Yi dared to make trouble, then all the Sky Class masters would rise up and kill Lin Yi at the same time. Before the Sky Class meeting, Kong Mingming had already started to make connections in secret. What if Lin Yi obstructs the opening of the Sky Class Island? If he wants to obstruct the opening of the Sky Class Island, what will you do? Kong Mingming continued to ask step by step. Then I'll stand on your side, Pinliang said after some thought. Chapter 35-26. This? Alright. Pinliang nodded. Lin Yi was his enemy in the first place, and he was the one who hindered the development of Sky Class Island. Lin Yi didn't feel any pressure killing him. Alright, I'll leave first. See you then. After Kong Mingming dealt with Zhong Pingliang, he still had to deal with the others. Other than the inheritors, there were many masters who had advanced to perfection in this trial. These were the people Kong Mingming needed to win over. Seeing Kong Mingming get out of Zhong Pingliang's car, Lin Yi's eyes flashed with indifference. It was unrealistic to expect Zhong Pingliang to change his side just by giving him some energy stones. After all, the two were in a state of complete hostility. Lin Yi wasn't so naive to think that Zhong Pingliang would extend this favor infinitely. They'd agreed on a deal back then, and it was a deal. If Lin Yi could help Naipeo recover, naturally, he could kill him after opening the island. It was all up to them now. Xiao Ran also left. He obviously had some things to do. Before leaving, Xiao Ran cupped his fist at Lin Yi and said, "Young hero Lin, thank you for your help before. I have to go back too. Take care." "All right." Lin Yi nodded and said, "You are alone. Take care of yourself. Don't let Zhong Pingliang and Kong Mingming find trouble with you." "I won't. My hometown is Songning City. It's not in the same direction as them." Xiao Ran shook his head. Lin Yi nodded and didn't say anything else as he watched Xiao Ran leave. Song Lingrui and Thor Ryu didn't say anything to Lin Yi when they left. Instead, they were separately pestered by Kong Mingming and didn't know what to say. Lin Yi didn't dare to use Heaven Realm Perfection's divine sense to investigate, because everyone was a master of the same level. If he really did that, others would definitely notice. However, it was definitely not something good. It was just that Lin Yi didn't really care. Kong Mingming would feel uncomfortable if he didn't do anything for a day. From the beginning to the end, he was a restless person. Although he created trouble for himself, he returned in failure every time. No one knew where he got his courage and endurance from. If it was someone else, they would have collapsed long ago. All the familiar people left one after another, including those from the inheritors' sections. They all went back to deal with the affairs of their sections. It was worth mentioning that Rock Candy and Sydney planned to go to Ironcloth sect together with Lin Yi. There was no need to mention the Rock Candy. Now that she was Lin Yi's little mistress, she naturally had to follow him. As Xueli had promised before, she was going to tag along. After the preparations were done, Lin Yi and the other inheritors set off. A group of more than a dozen Heaven Stage Great Perfection experts went to a sect to demand an explanation. This could be said to be unprecedented. Of course, it was hard to say whether it would never happen in the future. At least it had never happened before. Ironcloth sect was located near Qingfeng Plateau. Ordinary people would have altitude sickness if they went there. However, Lin Yi and his group were different. Everyone was a Heaven Stage Great Perfection expert and had long been immune to ordinary environments. However, the information on Ironcloth sect was pitifully little. What kind of sect was this? How many cultivators there were? What level the cultivators were at? Lin Yi had almost no idea. Even Tian Chan, the young master of the ancient sect's leader sect, Heavenly Elixir sect. They knew very little about it. Previously, Lin Yi thought that Ironcloth sect was an external sect. Of course, this was also based on his sect's name. Judging from the Golden Bell sect, Ironcloth sect should be an external sect. However, he heard from Tian Chan that Ironcloth sect seemed to have internal experts. Internal experts? Then why don't they participate in the Heaven Stage trial? Lin Yi was a little puzzled. Actually, some ancient sects and rogue cultivators may not participate in the Heaven Stage trial. Everyone has their own ambitions, and their pursuits are different. Tian Chan said, just like Ironcloth sect, they have never participated in any kind of trial activities. They have always lived their own lives, so other sects don't know much about them. They mind their own business and mind their own business. It's the same for blood-clothed underworld sect. They are an assassin sect and pursue killing for rewards. They don't particularly care about the heavenly way. If there's a chance, they will break through. If there's no chance, they won't force it. As for going to the Heaven Stage Island, they won't go. Who would return to the secular world after going to the Heaven Stage Island? Their business is still in the secular world, so they have not participated in any trial activities. So that's how it is. Lin Yi nodded after listening. Yes, they were already the top existences in the secular world. There was no need to pursue the illusory heavenly way. Legend had it that the heavenly way was immortal cultivation, and one could step into the ranks of immortals. It was a completely different level from the current martial arts. However, legend was legend after all. No one knew what the Heaven Stage Island was like. No one knew if going there would be a blessing or a curse. Everything looked beautiful. But if one thought about it carefully, on the Heaven Stage Island, complete Heaven Stage was probably the lowest existence. If there were so many masters on the island, one would be killed immediately. It would be better not to go. Lin Yi had to go. Or else Lin Yi would be too lazy to go. For Pangolin, for Yu Xiaoka, For Boss Bai's 5 Elements sect to flourish, Linny went with a goal and a mission. Yes, but with our group going to the Ironcloth sect. Tian Chan looked at everyone present and was speechless. This was simply bullying. But thinking about it, didn't the Ironcloth sect bully Feng Tianlong and Lingshan like this? The distance between the 5 Elements sect and the Ironcloth sect wasn't close. In a day's time, they wouldn't be able to get there by car. In the evening, Linny parked the car in a town and found a hotel to stay in. The hotel wasn't too big, and it wasn't the tourist season, so there weren't any guests. But it was better this way. Linny directly booked the entire hotel, and the boss happily hung a sign saying that it was full. Because they had been on the road for a day, they still had to wake up early the next morning. So after dinner, everyone went back to their rooms to rest. Although the hotel wasn't too big, it was more than enough for everyone to have a room. Everyone went into their room, including Tang Yun. She planned to take a shower and rest early, but there was a knock on the door. Tang Yun opened the door and saw that it was Sydney. "Sister Shui, why are you here? What's the matter?" Tang Yun felt strange. When they broke up, Sydney was fine, but she came back in a blink of an eye. Chapter 35-27. Oh, Tang Yin was happy to hear that Lin Yi might be looking for her, but she was disappointed to change rooms. She knew that she hadn't broken through to Sky Full Cycle yet, so she had to keep a distance from Lin Yi. Otherwise, the Heartless Art wouldn't be effective. After taking Shueli's keys, Tang Yin went to the room next door. Shueli took a shower and went to bed early in the morning. Lin Yi also had his own room. After taking a shower, Lin Yi couldn't focus on cultivation. To be honest, Lin Yi's strength was already at the top of the heavenly Tao. It didn't matter if he cultivated or not. As a result, he couldn't help but think of Tang Yin when he had nothing else to do. Ever since he returned to West Star Village, he hadn't been close to Tang Yin. Although he had forgotten about Tang Yin at that time, now that he thought about it, Lin Yi couldn't help but feel that he hadn't seen Tang Yin for a long time. If it wasn't for Sydney's presence during the day, Lin Yi would have gone to talk to Tang Yin alone. But with Sydney watching from the side, Lin Yi couldn't do anything. But tonight, everyone slept in separate rooms. Lin Yi hesitated for a moment and tiptoed out of the room. If it was someone else, Lin Yi might have some scruples. But Tang Yin was his first real girlfriend. When they were together, their relationship was already very good. Even if they didn't sleep together, it was close. If it wasn't for the incident in Snow Valley, Lin Yi and Tang Yin would have been living together. So, Lin Yi didn't feel any pressure sneaking into Tang Yin's room at night. Not to mention in a small hotel like this. It was an ordinary door with a key. It was an electronic door. With the skills he'd learned from his master, it was a piece of cake for him to open the door. Lin Yi remembered Tang Yin's room number. So he quietly opened the door, closed it, and sneaked into the room. Tang Yin should have fallen asleep already. Her back was facing Lin Yi's direction. Lin Yi didn't wake her up. Instead, he took off his pajamas and jumped onto the bed. Although Lin Yi didn't plan on doing anything, he saw Tang Yin's exposed shoulder. It was obvious that she had gone to bed without wearing her pajamas after taking a shower. After getting on the bed, Lin Yi directly picked up Tang Yin from behind. However, Lin Yi was startled by the softness of her body. Although Lin Yi hadn't touched it before, he could tell that Tang Yin wasn't that big. Otherwise, she wouldn't have lost so many battles with Yushu because of this. And now Tang Yin's size was so much bigger. Even if it wasn't as big as Yushu's, it was still much bigger than before. This surprised Lin Yi. Could it be that training had the effect of breast enlargement? Sydney was also mentally and physically exhausted these few days. Tang Yin didn't break through to Sky Full Cycle. She didn't feel good either. This was an important matter for the Snow Valley. She had to worry about it every day. So after taking a shower, she laid on the comfortable bed. She fell asleep in a daze. After sleeping for a while, she suddenly felt like someone was on her bed. This surprised Sydney. She was a Sky Full Cycle master. Unless the other party was also a Sky Full Cycle master, they wouldn't be able to hide from her eyes. Just as she was about to confirm if someone was really here, she felt her chest being wrapped by a large hand. This shocked Sydney, and she immediately woke up. She shouted from the bed, "Pervert! Give me your life!" Ah! Lenny was also shocked. He jumped up from the bed. This wasn't Tang Yun's voice. Wasn't this Sydney's voice? Where was Tang Yun? Wasn't this Tang Yun's room? Click. Sydney turned on the bedside lamp. Just as she was about to make a move, she saw that the person standing in front of her was Lin Yi. Moreover, Lin Yi was naked. This stunned Sydney. She quickly covered her eyes with her hands and said angrily, "Lin Yi, you're shameless." If it was someone else, Sydney would have killed them already. But the person in front of her was Lin Yi. She knew that she wasn't Lin Yi's opponent. So she only glared at Lin Yi and didn't make a move. However, when she covered her eyes, she suddenly realized that she wasn't wearing anything. As a result, when she turned on the light, wasn't she completely exposed? Sydney put down her hands and wanted to cover her body. But the more she thought about it, the more wrong she felt. Although she was almost 30 this year, she still had the temperament of a young girl. After all, she lived in an ancient sect and didn't come into contact with the outside world. The only thing she knew about the outside world was from some books. So she was seen by Lin Yi and even touched. She felt wronged. Why was she so unlucky? Sydney sat on the bed and hugged her legs. She curled into a ball and started crying. This time, it made Lin Yi a little helpless. He didn't know that the person in the room was Sydney. If he knew, he wouldn't be so presumptuous. But now that there was a problem, Lin Yi had no choice. He thought that Sydney would beat him up and Lin Yi had the attitude of not fighting back. After all, Lin Yi had the art of dragon mastery to heal him. No matter how heavy it was, it wouldn't matter. But now Sydney didn't hit or scold him. Instead, she cried. Lin Yi really didn't know how to deal with it. He could only bite the bullet and say, "Sydney, I'm sorry. This is a misunderstanding. I thought that the person in the room was Tang Yun." Sydney ignored Lin Yi and continued to cry. Lin Yi sighed helplessly. He sat on the side and looked at Sydney quietly. Lin Yi didn't know how old Sydney was. Why did she look like a child? Just from her appearance, Sydney should be in her early 20s. She should have broken through to heaven's stage when she was in her 20s. After that, her appearance stayed forever. So, she could be in her 20s, 80s, or even 100. Lin Yi waited for Sydney's crying to quiet down before continuing. "Sydney, don't cry. We are all adults and top masters. You shouldn't care too much about this. Our goal is to go to Heaven's Stage Island. Do you know that men and women shouldn't touch each other?" Sydney raised her head and stared at Lin Yi. "Tell me, what should I do?" I'll go back now and pretend that nothing happened. Is that okay?" Lin Yi asked. In fact, if it was a normal modern woman, she would probably agree to what Lin Yi said. After all, they didn't really lose anything. Chapter 35-28. Treat. How can you do that? You have seen it, hugged it and touched it. You want me to let it go? Sydney glared at Lin Yi while gritting her teeth. How can there be such a good thing in this world? Ugh. Then what do you want? Lin Yi smiled bitterly. You don't want to take responsibility? Sydney glared at Lin Yi fiercely. You want me to take responsibility just like that? Lin Yi pointed at himself in astonishment. You have so many wives. Am I the only one left? Sydney was furious. What do you mean? It's not that I'm not the only one left. Sydney's words really made Lin Yi speechless. What kind of logic was Sydney using? What he meant was that he didn't have any emotional foundation with her. Why did he accept her inexplicably? What was going on? Sydney, calm down. This is unfair to you. Lin Yi quickly explained. It's unfair if you don't take responsibility. Sydney said. A woman is treated like this by a man. Can I still be good with others? If you don't take responsibility, I can only live alone for the rest of my life. Why are you so wicked? Wicked? Lin Yi really didn't know what to say. Sydney's logic. Wait. Lin Yi suddenly thought of Rock Candy. From Rock Candy's point of view, if Lin Yi hugged her, she was considered one of them. And Sydney was also a girl who grew up in an ancient sect. Perhaps their thoughts were also influenced by the ancient times. They cared about these things very much. That's why she said that. As a result, Lenny had some headaches. Tang Yun's matter hadn't been solved yet. Now there was another Sydney. Well, one more then. Lenny could only nod. But I still don't understand anything. I still don't know anything. Since we're together, you should at least tell me about yourself, right? You agreed? That's good. Sydney smiled through her tears. I'll tell you about my story, and you should tell me about yours. From Sydney's point of view, wasn't blind dates like this in the past? Everyone was well matched in terms of social status. Then they talked about each other's situations and got together. That was it. Fine. Lenny felt like it was a trap. If it wasn't for the surprise, he wouldn't have to do this. Fortunately, Sydney looked like she was only in her early 20s, and her personality was like a little girl's. Otherwise, being with a woman who was older than her would be extremely stressful. But now, it seemed that Sydney, no matter in terms of psychology or anything else, was not. They were both little girls, there was no difference. That's right, how did you come in? Why didn't I know anything about it? I purposely locked the door before I went to bed. Sydney looked at Lenny suspiciously. Don't tell me you colluded with Tang Yun, and she gave you the key? Sydney really didn't understand. Logically speaking, she locked the door. Even if Lin Yi was a heaven stage full cycle master. Even if he didn't have the key, he still had to break the door, right? Even if he was a heaven Dao master, could he break the door quietly? If there was any movement before, then Sydney wouldn't still be asleep. She would have gotten up immediately to deal with it, and Lenny wouldn't have succeeded. Moreover, from Sydney's point of view, no matter how daring Lenny was, he wouldn't dare to break the door in a public inn, right? So Sydney went to sleep without any precaution. After taking a shower, she was too lazy to put on her clothes because she subconsciously thought that even if Lenny wanted to come, he would definitely knock on the door. How would she know that something like this would happen? According to normal thinking, it was true. But Sydney neglected that Lenny had the ultimate skill of picking locks. From her point of view, it was completely impossible and unnecessary for a heaven stage full cycle master to learn how to pick locks. No. Before I became a practitioner, I was a great thief. I'm a godly thief. Lenny said. Puffed. Really? Sydney widened her eyes in disbelief. How old are you this year? How could you be a great thief in the past? When did you start cultivating? I was still a golden stage master a year ago. Do you believe me? Lenny smiled bitterly and said. I already said to introduce each other. I don't need to lie to you about this. You leveled up really fast. Sydney looked at Lenny and sighed. Hey, I'm almost 30 years old. You won't dislike me, right? You look like you're even younger than Tang Yun. Lenny didn't know whether to laugh or cry. Look at you now. I don't look 30 years old no matter how I look, don't fool me. Hee hee. Sydney couldn't help but laugh. Then you can pretend I'm 18. 18 is big, you're 16 at most. Lenny knew that there was no turning back. Sydney's thinking was very conservative, so he could only comfort her first. However, today's matter was really a blunder. If Lenny didn't hide his strength or made some noise, then Sydney would definitely find out, and it wouldn't be like this. But Lenny became like this because he didn't want Tang Yun to find out. Sydney told Lenny about her own matters. But Sydney's life was very boring, almost the same as rock candies. She grew up in Snow Valley and didn't come into contact with anything. Because of her practice, no one came to propose to her. Sydney also didn't think that she would be able to be with a man in the future. Huh? That's not right. Aren't you also practicing the heartless chant? Why do I feel like you're so easily moved? I touched you, and you want me to take responsibility? Lenny suddenly asked. I didn't drink the forgetfulness, and I've never liked anyone before. I want you to take responsibility because it's written in the book, Sydney said. I feel like there's something wrong with the heartless chant that your grandmaster created. If it was really heartless, then she wouldn't be interested in men. But now it's just on the surface, but inside, she has feelings, Lenny said. Don't you dare slander Grandmaster Snow, Sydney said. It's not slander, but didn't your Grandmaster Snow end up with Zhang Liju? Did her heartless chant lose its effect? Linny was familiar with Sydney, so he could say this. Don't say that, how is that possible? Grandmaster Snow went to pursue the heavenly Tao. How could she be with Zhang Liju? Sydney didn't believe Lin Yi's words. When this is over, I'll take you to a place. Linny thought about it. Only by bringing Sydney to the tomb would she believe that their Grandmaster Snow was really living with Zhang Liju, and that they were sharing the same husband. Chapter 35-29. She now saw Lin Yi as the closest person to her. Naturally, some of the thoughts she hadn't dared to voice before were spoken out now. Although it was a little disrespectful to the Snow ancestor, it was indeed what she had been thinking. Rest well, we still have a long journey tomorrow. I'll go back now, Linny said. Ah, you're leaving already? Sydney paused. Aren't you going to do something? Do what? Linny asked. The books say that on the wedding night, shouldn't we do something? Sydney said shyly. We'll talk about it when we get back from Sky Class Island. Linny hesitated. In fact, if they were to talk about being together, Lin Yi's ideal partner was Yu Ning, Chu Mingyao, Yu Shu or Tang Yun. After all, these were the first people Lin Yi was familiar with. But with Sydney, he didn't have any feelings at all. Although feelings could be cultivated, they hadn't been cultivated yet, right? Plus, if the first time was with someone other than these four, Lin Yi wouldn't be able to accept it. Taking a step back, it should be Yang Qiqi or Wang Xinyan. Okay. Sydney let out a sigh of relief. To be honest, she was a little scared. Although the books said that when two people got married, they would sleep together and do that kind of thing, the ancient sects didn't care about those complicated marriage rules. The people of the Jianghu were all simple. Lin Yi put on his clothes and left Sydney's room. He took a deep breath and looked at the room that belonged to Sydney, but was now Tang Yun's room. He couldn't help but sigh. He wasn't in the mood to go there anymore. Back in his room, Lin Yi couldn't fall asleep for a long time. He thought about the things that happened in the past year, and was filled with emotions, all the way until dawn. The next morning, everyone left the hotel after breakfast. Sydney's attitude towards Lin Yi had clearly changed. There wasn't the vigilance and hatred in her eyes anymore. There was a hint of tenderness in her voice, which confused Tang Yun. Could it be that Sydney wasn't against her and Lin Yi? Sister Shui, why do you keep looking at Lin Yi? Tang Yun asked Sydney. Lin Yi was driving a bus from the Heavenly Elixir sect, which was provided by Tian Chan. Everyone could sit in it, and Tang Yun sat with Sydney. Tang Yun noticed that Sydney would inadvertently look up at Lin Yi, who was driving in the front. Sydney didn't think that her little action would be noticed by Tang Yun. She blushed shyly. She wasn't good at lying, and she didn't want to lie to Tang Yun. Yesterday, Lin Yi came to my room to find me. Tang Yun was shocked. She thought that Lin Yi and Sydney had some conflict. She quickly asked, Sister Shui, then you and Lin Yi. You guys. We slept together. Sydney was embarrassed as she looked at Tang Yun, who was stunned. Sister Shui, what did you say? Tang Yun didn't understand. I'm sorry, it's my fault. After the shower, I fell asleep. I didn't wear any clothes. How would I know that Lin Yi used to be a bandit? He opened the door. He thought I was you. Actually, it's not his fault, Sydney said helplessly. Pfft. Tang Yun finally understood what was going on. This was a huge mess. It was a big mistake. However, Tang Yun didn't blame Sydney or Lin Yi. Yesterday, Lin Yi went to the room. This meant that Lin Yi was thinking about her, Tang Yun, and bumping into Shui could only be considered a freak accident. Before, Sydney changed the room to guard against Lin Yi, but she didn't know that Lin Yi didn't follow the rules. He opened the door and went to the bed. This was so it wasn't Sydney's fault. On the other hand, Tang Yun didn't want to look into the relationship between Lin Yi and Sydney. It seemed that Lin Yi already had a lot of women around him. She couldn't stop them even if she wanted to. During this period of time in the ancient sect, the ancient books she read instilled in her the ideas of ancient women. So she didn't have much resistance towards Lin Yi having multiple wives and concubines. Besides, Sydney was a friend she got along well with. Although Sydney was guarded against Lin Yi before, it was for the sake of Xiuegu. But now that Sydney and Lin Yi had such a relationship, Tang Yun felt that there wouldn't be any obstacles between her and Lin Yi. Ning Yu, why don't you scold me? Actually, it's not like I'm being forced into this. I just think that Lin Yi is actually quite a nice person. There's something indescribably attractive about him. Forget it. In Xiuegu, you and I are like sisters. This is nothing. You and I are no longer women in the secular world. My thinking has changed a lot. As long as we get along, it's fine. Tang Yun shook her head. Previously, when they were in the secular world, she was competitive and wanted to be Lin Yi's first wife. But now that she thought about it, it was just a title. Perhaps, it was because heartless arts changed Tang Yun's personality. Sydney didn't think that Tang Yun would let this matter go so easily. It surprised her. But looking at Tang Yun's sincere expression, it didn't seem fake. Sydney finally let out a sigh of relief. From her point of view, the biggest obstacle to being with Lin Yi was Tang Yun. If Tang Yun didn't have any problems, then there wouldn't be any problems. Sydney didn't care about other people's thoughts. Because there was nothing on her mind, Sydney became more cheerful. She chatted with Tang Yun along the way. Tang Yun then realized that Sydney was quite a talkative person. Oh, Yarao sis, I told you. That Sydney in Xiuegu isn't a good person. She's a vixen. She seduced Shield Bro. The older she gets, the more shameless she is. She's an old cow eating young grass. Yushu said to Mingyao. Alright Shu. Yun didn't say anything. You don't have to be stubborn. Mingyao patted Yushu's little hand and said. Besides, Shueli still looks very young, about the same age as us. Sky-class masters don't care about age anymore. The future of training will be extremely long. Some people even forget how old they are. Yushu's eyes lit up. Alright Yao sis, you are the first wife. You should exercise your power as the first wife. Yushu encouraged. Yun's sacrifice is bigger than mine. Mingyao said. Then let's be equal. Yushu didn't want Mingyao to fall behind others. Tang Yun couldn't either. Although their relationship was good, it wasn't as good as Mingyao's. Haha sure. Mingyao felt that it was a good idea, and it wouldn't hurt their relationship. What if other people compete? Yushu said worriedly. You're tuning in to the Li Mei's Sword of Destiny YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support. And don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.